everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Unfinished Business. It's this podcast where best friends who love to argue talk about sports. I'm your host, Braden. I've got a co-host right here to my right, which is Gregory, and I've got another co-host down over in the abyss over here, named Chandler. Our video guy and tech guy.
Hi.
And whatever else we need him to do. Then we've got our special guest over here to my left, Moose. All right. So, let's just start out with doing a little bit of an introduction of who we are and what I guess qualifies us to be in a sports podcast. So, I played sports ever since I was probably 5 or 6. I played baseball, basketball, soccer, golf, just about anything that you could think of, and pretty much follow just about any sport possible.
Moose, you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Moose. Sports played. I've been playing sports all my life. Very athletic. Baseball, basketball, a little bit of football till I had some injuries. And now I'm here.
Good to have you, Moose. I'm Greg, or Gregory, as our host said. I have been playing sports, kind of like Braden, from about the age of 5, 6. Mainly baseball. Played basketball, soccer, and stuff like that as a kid. But baseball till about the age of 18, maybe 19, and just been following sports my whole life. So we just kind of wanted to start this and kind of just talk sports. And yeah.
We don't get enough of it nowadays.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So just a little bit of how we know each other as well. Me and Greg have known each other for 15 plus years. We've played baseball together in junior high and high school. Basically have become brothers pretty much. So that's how we know each other.
And then, we got Chandler down here as our video guy, and then Moose, and I mean, I've known them my whole life because, we're kind of
One day you saw me on the street, now here I am.
Yeah,
exactly. We just pulled them off the street.
We just pulled them off the street, and,
Never left.
Never left. Well, so might as well jump into our first topic here. First topic that we are going to cover today is with the big news coming out of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers locker room yesterday, with Tom Brady signing an extension that leveled out to being a 4-year extension that ends up voiding into a 1-year extension. Basically, it's just going to save the Buccaneers $19 million in cap space for this upcoming year. They're believing that it's going to reduce Brady's year salary for this coming year to the league minimum for a veteran of just over $1 million, and then converting the rest of that salary that he was owed, which is going to be roughly about $24 million, and that's going to be converted into a signing bonus that's going to be spread out between now and up until 2025 when those voided contract years end.
And with that, I mean, what I found with that was he's also can earn up to, I believe, $9 million in incentives, which it's Tom Brady. The $9 million is going to probably be happening for sure. I want to say, I don't have the breakdown, but I want to say it's so much for a wild card win, so much to make the playoffs and make the Super Bowl, which it's Tom Brady. So yeah. The chance of making the Super Bowl, I like my chances. Yeah. So I would say $9 million, probably going to be making $10 million with the average salary for next year as well. So
yeah, so his breakdown is going to he's going to be making around a $9.2 to $9.5 million salary cap hit to the Buccaneers for next year. So I went through and looked at the breakdown of the QB salary cap hit for every NFL team just to see who, as a quarterback, was making more money than he was. And, well, he is the 22nd highest paid quarterback in football for next year. And let me tell you, some of the names that are on this list as the highest paid just are ridiculous.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah,
Quite possibly, if I was a fan of those teams on some of these, I'd be embarrassed.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Ryan Tannehill with the Tennessee Titans is going to be making nearly $30 million next year.
Well, and honestly, with that one though, if I'm a Titans fan, you almost had to pay him though. I mean, and not necessarily because he is that good of a quarterback, but he fits their system. So
I mean,
that one, do I think he's worth that? No, but
no.
In that system, I see why they paid him.
I see why they paid him, but I don't see why they paid him $30 million. That's for sure. Let's see who else here's another big head scratcher here for me was at number 11, Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah,
Teddy Bridgewater, and basically unproven quarterback who's not started a complete season, I believe, right?
I don't know.
Hasn't completed a full season as a starter. Is being paid basically $23 million with the Carolina Panthers to be their starter and be their guy after Cam Newton left, and they're hoping that he can be that guy.
Which, based on what he did in New Orleans, filling in for Drew Brees, you could say he earned that money, but without playing a whole year, almost 23 mil, my bad, is mind-boggling. I mean, it's for a guy who's very injury prone. Obviously that's just for next year. I think I don't know what his full contract details are. I didn't look into that, but just for next season, 23 million is ridiculous.
Oh, yes.
And the one that I wanted to ask you about was for next season, Taysom Hill is making more than Drew Brees.
Taysom Hill is making a whopping $16.2 million.
Yeah. That's the one that I was shocked about. A guy who's not even known to be throwing the football.
No, and
he's making $16 million.
I want to say he is third on the QB depth chart for New Orleans as well.
Do they still have Jameis? I couldn't remember.
I'm not 100% sure. I do believe that Taysom Hill is third on their depth chart though, so they might still have Jameis. Yeah. But paying a third string quarterback, and I understand that Taysom Hill does a lot of other things as well as he goes out and lines up as a receiver, tight end. He kick returns every once in a while. Mm-hmm. But you're paying a third string quarterback $16.2 million to come in off the bench and make an impact. 6-7 times a game maybe,
if that. I mean there's talk that Brees retired, right? Or has he actually? I can't remember. Did he actually come out and say he retired?
I haven't heard anything, but
I can't remember if he actually said he's retired. I know there was talks about it.
I know that they.
But I can't remember if he actually said if he was going to be retired or not. So I mean. If he's retired, Taysom Hill can compete for a starting job, but
with Jameis, yes.
I mean,
Jameis throws to the other team as much as he throws to his own receivers.
Touchdown interception ratio, it's
not
50-50, even though he throws 30 touchdowns.
It's not good.
I mean,
it's not good. Let's see here.
The one that I give credit to, and I don't know if he did it so much as because he saw Tom Brady do it and he wants to try to win a Super Bowl instead of Tom Brady, is the Patrick Mahomes. Signing a huge contract, and in my mind, based on what he's done, you could say, deserving, I guess. But I did like to see him restructure his contract, and I think they get that the Chiefs get an extra 15 to 17 million in cap room for this next season, I believe. I don't have the exact number written down, but I know that it wasn't as much as what Tampa Bay is getting with Tom Brady restructuring his, but it was a decent amount.
Well, with that extra money that Kansas City is getting here, what improvements are you thinking that they make to that team? I mean, do you think they go offense and hopes of scoring more points? Or are you hoping that they get a better defense that can stop teams like the Buccaneers that they could not stop in the Super Bowl?
In my mind, and I mean, obviously, I'm not a Chiefs fan, but I have to give them credit for having a very good team. I mean, especially offensively. I personally would go. I mean, there's rumors that their offensive line, some of them aren't coming back next year. So I would try to get at least one, if not two players on their offensive line. I know they did. I know they decided to let, I believe it's Eric Fisher, like former #1 draft pick, like they let him go to free agency. So I don't know if they're going to try to re-sign him or let him go. But if I'm a Chiefs fan, I want to see them address, at least some depth on the offensive line. Because, I mean, you look at the Super Bowl, they have people injured, and their offensive line,
it crumbled.
It looked terrible.
It crumbled. Mahomes was struggling to stay in the pocket for too long. And
with that being said, I still think they need to address some on the defense.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a decent defense. I wouldn't say top tier by any means, but they do have a decent defense that can keep them in games. And I mean, especially in the AFC, I mean, they're going to make the playoffs next year no matter what.
Yeah.
But against higher quality offenses they're going to be able to put up points, I guess. Depending on what their offensive line is like.
Yeah.
But can their defense stop other teams from scoring too many points is the question.
See, I don't think so.
And
I don't think they can.
And I mean, I guess you saw that at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
that
could be just a example of Andy Reid just getting outcoached as far as on the defensive side of the ball. But I mean, even if your team or your coach gets outcoached, you still have to have that talent on the defensive side of the ball that's going to be able to pick up this is going to be a pass play. I need to make sure that this area of the field is covered. I mean,
I don't know if it was so much as outcoached per se, or it was the fact that, I mean, granted, you got to play the game, and even if you have people injured on your offensive line, you have to play the game. But I mean, I think it goes to show that their offensive line was very depleted and sucked.
Yeah.
Sorry for Kansas City Chiefs fans, but your offensive line sucked in that game. Anytime Mahomes has to run for, I forget the number, but I'm pretty sure it was 400 yards behind the line of scrimmage or something like that.
It was close to that.
I mean, no matter what you do as a coach, if he can't have time to get the ball off, and your run game, in all honesty, didn't do anything in the Super Bowl, it's hard to really say that you're really outcoached.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was so much being outcoached, especially when, I mean, let's be honest, Tampa Bay has technically two coaches. I mean, Bruce Arians can say so much, but I mean, it's Tom Brady. He can pretty much. I mean, I'm pretty sure Bruce Arians even said Tom Brady has full reins in this offense. I'm just here
as he should,
as a coach,
as he should.
So I don't know. I know we're kind of getting off topic. So I'm just talking about the Chiefs, but I think restructuring Patrick Mahomes' contract allows them to go out and hopefully, if I'm a Chiefs fan, get numerous players, not just one.
Yeah.
Who's a really good player, but actually get numerous players who, may just come in and want to compete for a Super Bowl. I mean, let's be honest, the Chiefs and the AFC probably are going to be still one of the top teams.
Yeah.
I mean, I would still say, depending on if they got a taste of it this year. Obviously, they got blown out in the AFC Championship, but I mean, I would say the Bills are up and coming, and if the Chiefs don't address some of their issues, the Bills are right there.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that here in a minute because I have some stuff to say about the Bills as well.
And I was about to say, I mean, the Bills. Who would have thought that just adding Stephon Diggs would make that big of a difference? But the Bills Obviously, based on my cup too, I'm a Patriots fan, which I don't even want to talk about them right now with signing the Cam Newton contract. But the Bills are going to own that division for several years.
Yes.
I mean, I guess you could say if Tua starts doing good, the Dolphins have a chance. But in my mind, it's Buffalo no matter what.
Yeah.
But
so let's go ahead and move a little bit farther down this list here. So you've got the thing that really kind of jumped out to me is that like you have a couple of some solid starters. You have some that are you have some that are great players, some that are kind of solid. Then you've got this kind of the lower end of the tier. But more of what I'm seeing and surprised by is that there are teams that have their starter and their backup that are making more money than Tom Brady is as one of the greatest, if not the greatest quarterback to ever play. And he's still a starter and not and starting every game, assuming he doesn't get hurt. Like you've got, for example, at 13 highest, you've got Derek Carr, who's with the Raiders, making $22.1 million. And then it just jumped down a couple spots to number 18, and you've got newly acquired Marcus Mariota that also plays for the Raiders now at 10.7.
Yeah. With that being said, though, I've heard several rumbles that either Mariota or Derek Carr could possibly be traded or let go.
See, my thing is though, what team in the NFL right now, other than the Bears, which I mean they're kind of in a quarterback crisis right now at the moment with trying to figure out if they want Trubisky to be their guy still or if they are going to
try to go after
Wilson,
Russell Wilson.
Yeah. But other than the Bears, really, or Seattle, if they do trade Russell Wilson, what team is going to pay $22 million for Derek Carr? He's been an unproven quarterback.
And that's a valid point.
And same thing with Marcus Mariota. We've seen flashes of greatness from Marcus Mariota from the years that he played really well and from his years at Oregon. But here the last few years, he lost his starting job to Ryan Tannehill. It wasn't a fact of, Marcus Mariota got hurt and then Ryan Tannehill came in, took over the reins of the offense, and just did well, so didn't want to change anything. Mariota lost his job to Ryan Tannehill because Marcus Mariota was playing that badly, and he lost that job.
I will say this past year, I forgot who they were playing. I forgot what game it was, but I know Carr went down with an injury and Mariota went into the game.
Yeah.
And I will say, Mariota looked very good in that offense. For that game. I think they ended up still losing if I remember correctly. I could be wrong about that. I didn't actually watch all the game. But Mariota looked very impressive. But obviously small sample size.
Yeah.
Can he still be a number one on a team?
No. I don't think so.
Me personally, I don't think so. And I mean I think we both agree on that. Moose, do you have any input on this?
I agree as well.
Oh, you agree with me? Okay.
Perfect.
I figured you probably did.
Perfect.
But yeah, I think if I'm a Raiders fan, I would want. I don't know. I mean, who would you rather have, Mariota or Carr? I mean, contract-wise, you would probably.
Can I say neither?
I mean, you easily could. I mean,
can I package Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota and send them to the Bears, who are in desperate need of a quarterback from what some fans have said?
Yeah,
but hopefully get Trubisky.
But then you get Trubisky back. I mean, would you really want Trubisky
at this point? I'd rather have Trubisky with a higher ceiling than Derek Carr.
See, I don't know. I think
he's younger.
That I would agree with. But in my mind, Derek Carr is not necessarily a bad quarterback. I just don't know with the offense that he has had in previous years. Now, last year, I mean, you got guys like Henry Ruggs. Yeah. Is it Waller? Is that their tight end? Yeah. I think it's Waller.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it's Waller. But, I mean, they have enough receiving core, and I'm pretty sure their top wide receiver went down for the year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in my mind, Derek Carr isn't I mean, he's not a bad quarterback. I wouldn't necessarily put him in top 10, but
No.
but I mean, when your backup's Marcus Mariota, that's a tough decision.
And I guess you could always play as what a lot of colleges have really kind of adapted and used that dual quarterback system where you have, Derek Carr come in for those obvious passing downs and you get near the goal line and then kind of do what the Broncos did with Tim Tebow for a little while, and just bring him in for goal line type situations and always have that threat of a run. God,
we really just added Tim Tebow to this podcast.
We added Tim Tebow. I was getting that in here.
Wow.
Big fan of Tim Tebow.
Big fan.
Big
All
fan.
right.
Big fan.
Let's see. So
the baseball Tim Tebow or the football Tim Tebow?
Baseball.
Baseball.
Okay. Well, we're talking football right now.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
Like the baseball, Tim Tebow a little better.
Okay.
Hey, he actually retired from baseball.
He did. So the one thing after Derek Carr, you had obviously one of the bigger trades this offseason. You got Matt Stafford going to the Rams, and you've got Jared Goff going to Detroit. See, as a Rams fan, I was thrilled to see this trade. The 1 year that Jared Goff led the Rams to the Super Bowl, he had a great year.
Got his ass handed to him.
He did, and I was a fan of his. He did really well that year. Had a great statistical year. He led the offense really well. But I mean, here last year, I mean, you saw his struggles. Was benched for a game.
Mm-hmm.
And with Matt Stafford, Jared Goff making $27.8 million, and then you bring in Matt Stafford with the Rams already having salary cap issues the way it is, and you get that $7.8 million off the books and having Matt Stafford, who is going to be a more consistent passer. He's got a more dynamic arm. He's basically been the face of that Detroit Lion franchise for his entire career, and carried that load. So at a $20 million price tag, I'm okay with that, and hopefully with the receiving core that we have and in LA with the Rams, I'm hoping that we can make that work a little better than we did with Jared Goff. But I'm happy with that with the $20 million.
And me not being a Rams fan, I mean, I would still say they definitely upgraded.
Oh yeah.
In quarterback, the only issue I would have with it is how injury prone Stafford is. But with that being said, I believe the receiving core in Los Angeles is better than Detroit, especially now that Kenny Galladay is a free agent.
Yes.
I think their number one receiver now is Amendola, maybe.
Maybe.
I honestly, Galladay was number one.
Unless they go out and pick somebody up in free agency.
Yeah. So, in my mind, the Rams definitely upgraded on quarterback. I would be hesitant on the fact that he is very injury prone, which a lot of that is because he never had an offensive line.
Very true.
He has not had.
The Rams here the last couple of years have had a good offensive line for the most part, which has really kind of surprised me with how bad, or not necessarily bad, but how kind of statistically poor Jared Goff was doing here this last year with the protection that he had. Let's see here. Moving on down the list a little bit here. We've got Baker Mayfield at 19 at 10.6 mil.
Which is
I think that's about
right for him.
I think it's about where it should be. Sam Darnold at 20, making $9.8 million with the Jets.
Which is that still his rookie contract? I can't remember.
I'm not sure.
I want to say it's. I can't remember if he signed an extension yet.
Well, if he hadn't signed an extension, the Jets better get a deal on him and pay less than $9.8 million for Sam Darnold.
Honestly, if I'm a Jets fan, the Jets are.
They're in shambles.
Just a dumpster fire.
They're in shambles.
If I'm a Jets fan, I would almost.
Well, if you're a Jets fan, I apologize for you.
Well, yeah. First off, if you're a Jets fan, I'm sorry. But second, I would almost want to either trade him and hope to get somebody for him. I mean, I don't know if that's like.
I don't know who would want him.
That's the problem.
The Bears.
I mean, if the Bears are desperate enough, maybe. But in my mind, Sam Darnold. And I don't know if it's so much Sam Darnold's bad or if it's so much their offense.
The Jets are just bad.
Terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe a team like, I mean, obviously I know New England just signed Cam Newton, but maybe next year, depending on who they draft in the draft this year, which I actually heard. I don't know if you read this. There is, I forgot his name, but he's from North Dakota State.
Oh, yeah.
That might fall to the Patriots, and I watched his pro workout, and he looks impressive.
Well, even if the Patriots are that desperate, I mean, they're paying Cam Newton $5 million this year. I mean, it's not like Robert Kraft can't come up with an extra $9 million, extra $10 million.
Is it $5 million?
Yeah.
Okay. Cause I thought he signed for 14. Was the other like 9 incentives?
It must be. Yeah.
Okay.
He's on the books for $5 million for this upcoming year.
Like against the cap.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I knew like it was a crazy contract in my mind for him.
Yeah.
Because especially based on what he did last year.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest,
good.
Other than running the football,
you want to talk about dumpster fire? There you go.
Let's not talk about it, okay? Like New England's going to be struggling for the next who knows how many years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their defense is going to be the only reason why they stay in games, and that's not saying much because their defense looked terrible last year.
Yeah. So let's see here. So 21, you got Kyler Murray in Arizona making 9.8.
That's still his rookie deal.
That's still his rookie deal. Yeah.
So I wonder if the Sam Darnold is the rookie deal because I think he was number 1.
It could be.
So if Kyler Murray's making about the same money, I would say it's still rookie deal.
Yeah. So then at 22, you've got Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
Below him though, there are a couple of players on here that actually, like, looking at this list, I was surprised, and there are some teams that are getting some deals on some quarterbacks.
Lamar Jackson, number 33 on this list, making the least amount of money of all the starters at $3 million this upcoming year. And I want to say that is still his rookie deal.
Yes.
And
if not, then what are you doing?
And I think if as a Ravens organization,
lock him up.
They're gonna have to pay him.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
they're 100% gonna have to pay him.
Even if he struggles against the Chiefs, like his whole career so far, you have to pay that guy.
You have to pay him.
He is gonna be your franchise quarterback for years.
Yeah.
And I mean, last year you could say was a down year for him.
Yeah.
I mean, compared to some of these other teams, I mean, we were talking about how bad the Jets are.
Yeah.
I mean, as a New England fan, if you guys don't want to pay him, I'll gladly take him.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to deal with him right now.
Yeah.
Here in the next, I don't know when his contract's up, but here in the next couple of years,
he's going to be making some money.
He's going to be making bank. So
yeah.
Enjoy it while it lasts now. The problem is I don't see
them competing.
I don't see the Ravens competing with teams like the Buffalo or especially Kansas City.
If they make it that far, I don't see them getting through the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah,
I don't.
No.
I don't see Lamar Jackson coming up against a Tom Brady team.
Well, and that's the thing, and I know we already hit on this, but with the Buccaneers saving $19 million in cap. Just with Tom Brady, I mean, I can't remember who all they still need to sign. I can't remember.
They still need to re-sign Shaq Barrett because they franchise tagged Godwin. Which is the smart move there.
Yeah.
Get as many weapons for Tom Brady as you can get.
I can't remember. Is Gronk and Antonio Brown on 1-year deals, or did they sign them for?
They
longer?
were on 1-year deals, so they still need to sign Gronk.
Which honestly,
if he's wanting to come back,
both of them, in my mind, both of them, just because they just won a Super Bowl, they still have Tom Brady at quarterback. They will gladly take a pay cut in order to upgrade that team even more. Maybe not necessarily Antonio Brown, because God knows what he wants to do.
See, my thing is if you're the Buccaneers, why even take that chance on Antonio Brown? If you re-sign Gronkowski, you've got Godwin, you've got Mike Evans.
Well, and you could easily sign with that cap room if you wanted to. Not even saying you need to. You could sign Allen Robinson.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, for a 1-year deal, I'm sure he would love to come to a team to actually compete for a
For a ring, yeah.
for a ring.
Yeah.
But with that being said, the reason why I think Antonio Brown wants to sign back is for whatever reason he has a great relationship with Tom Brady.
He does.
And
he does.
The part that I loved last season was Tom Brady gave him, I believe, like 8 shovel passes in one game.
Yeah.
To make sure that he got an extra
yeah.
like $2 to $3 million.
Yeah.
So it's like they have a fantastic relationship. It's very weird to me that Tom Brady has a relationship with Antonio Brown with all of his off-field antics, and Tom Brady never has that. But
yeah,
I don't know. That's a whole different issue. But yeah, I mean, other than Lamar Jackson, I can't remember who were some of the other ones that were below.
The biggest deal out of any team. And this includes I would even say this includes the main stars that Matt Ryan getting $40.9 million, like
which for him,
Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, anybody. I don't care what quarterback, what team, what kind of deal they are on. This is
Carson Wentz after his terrible year in Philly.
This is by far the greatest deal that a team has on a quarterback. At 25. On the list, making $7.2 million. Or no, 26 on the list, sorry, making $7 million. Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills.
Mm-hmm.
By far,
which
the
is
greatest contract for a team. He showed up so well for the Bills last year. He made the right decisions. He showed that he could run over linebackers. He was making correct reads, throwing dimes, running people over, making all of the correct plays, and led that team to the farthest they've been in the playoffs for quite a long time. And for him to be on $7 million, and from what I've heard, not wanting to do any type of a contract extension yet. So he's wanting to play it through this year. And I think honestly that's a role of or a play of him betting on himself, knowing that he can make that team better. Getting farther into the playoffs and possibly even a Super Bowl berth to where he can make more money. And I think that's a smart play on his part.
And it's not only betting on himself, but I believe he wants. I mean, they got a taste of it this past year, and you could argue in that AFC Championship game that they weren't necessarily the less superior team. Yeah. They were just less experienced.
They were less experienced. Because they had the opportunities in those games. In that game, they could have won that game.
And what I saw in that game was Josh Allen went away from what made him very good this past season.
Yeah.
He wasn't necessarily making the right reads. I mean, he was making great reads, but the problem was he was trying to force longer passes than what he needed to do.
Trying to force balls, yeah.
There was definitely a couple times in that game where he should have just chucked it down low instead of trying to go deep.
And that's in that situation where you wish you had Ryan Fitzpatrick with Captain Checkdown.
That is very
Captain
true.
Checkdown.
Or heck, Tom Brady, who just thrived on that in New England. I mean, not necessarily in Tampa Bay where he has free reign to just chuck the ball wherever, but me personally, I mean, Josh Allen is going to get paid.
I mean, look at the names we're dropping this podcast right now. Ryan Fitzpatrick, Tim Tebow.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Names I didn't think I was going to bring up at all.
Hey, all I gotta say is Fitzmagic.
Fitzmagic.
It's
just the beard. That's all it is. That's all it is. All right, so now that we're done talking about the NFL, we're going to go ahead and we're going to throw it to our sponsor.
Yeah.
So we're going to throw it over to Gregory and let him read off our little sponsor.
Yeah. This episode of Unfinished Business is sponsored by Creations by Kane. Personalized shirts, signs, and vinyl decals. Creations by Kane can help bring your idea to life. The link will be in the description as well as on our Facebook page.
Yep, all you got to do is just search Creations by Kane on Facebook, and it will take you right to it. Go like it, go follow, get some stuff from there.
Yeah. Get your creations.
Get your creations.
Get your creations.
By Kane. All right, so jumping into our next topic, and I know this is going to be a hot topic with the NCAA tournament coming up here. So one thing that I definitely want to talk about is this top 25 situation. I am not a fan of the way that the NCAA ranks their top 25. And I think they should overhaul the entire process of the top 25. Just looking through here, you've got number 1 Gonzaga at 26-0. I mean, are they undefeated? Yes. Have they played anywhere near the competition that the other teams in the top other teams in the top 5 have played? Absolutely not.
Well, and that's I mean, I will gladly say Gonzaga is a great program, fantastic program. But if you put them in the Big 10, Big 12, SEC, I know the ACC was down this year, but even if you put them in the ACC, are they undefeated? I don't think so. Especially if they play the same schedule as Iowa, Michigan, Illinois in the Big 10, they're not undefeated. No way.
Absolutely not.
So, I mean, I understand they're undefeated. They're ranked number 1. Do they deserve it?
No.
Sure, I guess, but
no, they do not.
Their conference is terrible. So
to say it lightly, their conference is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll dive into a little bit of Gonzaga's schedule here. So, out of their 26 wins, they have played 4 teams that are currently ranked in the top 25. The rest of their schedule has been a conference schedule that they have obviously ran over because there's no competition. They're the only team in their conference that has any type of talent on their team. They've beat Kansas, they've beat West Virginia, they've beat Iowa, and they murdered Virginia by 23.
Well, but even then, all of those wins came in the first month or two.
Yes,
of the season, and you could arguably say Kansas wasn't playing their best basketball.
Agreed.
Iowa
hadn't hit their stride. West Virginia, Virginia won the ACC, but even then, they're projected at only a 4 seed. Virginia is 18-6.
Exactly. So I mean, they won the ACC, yes, but they're only projected, I think, in the tournament, even as the ACC regular season winner, and I think they had to drop out of the ACC tournament because of COVID test.
Yeah.
But they're only projected to be a 4 seed. So you could argue that's not even a quality win.
So I'm gonna do this for just a comparison here. Mm-hmm. So like I said, Gonzaga at number 1 has beat Kansas, West Virginia, Iowa, Virginia.
Yeah.
All right, let's break down. I've got the top 25 teams that Kansas has played against.
Okay.
And that they have beat.
Okay.
They beat Creighton, who is now ranked 17. They beat Texas Tech.
Yep.
They beat West Virginia.
Yep.
They beat Oklahoma. They beat Oklahoma State. They beat Texas Tech. They beat Baylor, and then they beat Oklahoma again.
Yep.
So there's eight wins against a top 25 team, whereas Gonzaga has 4.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, in all honesty, I will give you maybe not. I don't know if they have 8, but
they have 8.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you an even better one. And okay, yes, one of the wins was against a Duke team that at the time was ranked number 10, but obviously we know now definitely not a top 25 team, not even top 64, honestly.
Out of the picture.
But in my mind, and I mean, and we can get into our top 5 later on, like a little bit later on, but in my mind, quite possibly the team playing the best basketball in all of the country right now is Illinois.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I know you're an Illinois fan.
Absolutely.
But in my mind, if you're comparing them to Gonzaga, they've beat Iowa in January.
Twice. They just beat them.
Yeah, they just beat them again today.
Pretty handedly. Not by a blowout by any means, but there was no real scary issues in that game.
So, I mean, if you go through the Illinois schedule, they beat Duke early on when Duke was ranked number 10. Obviously, we know Duke that's not a quality win at this point, but at the time it was.
Yeah. Blew them out too.
Beat yeah, let's not talk about that. Beat Iowa.
Yep.
Beat Wisconsin. Yeah, they may have had some losses in between that time to, obviously the Mizzou loss was pretty bad.
All I can say is, and this isn't, I mean, obviously, yes, I'm an Illinois fan. I'm a little bit biased, but Mizzou was ranked at one point in this year. So you can't say necessarily.
I believe.
I understand that that's that's not the type of a caliber team they should be losing to, but.
And
Mizzou
I believe
was ranked, so it's not necessarily a terrible loss. It's not like they're losing.
Well, and Mizzou's gonna be in the tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, and I believe, I could be wrong, that Mizzou was ranked as high as 10 this year.
Yeah, it's not like they're losing to Pepperdine or to.
Oh, exactly.
It's a Seton Hall.
And here's my thing. Since February 27th.
Yeah.
Illinois has beaten Wisconsin.
Yep. Also ranked in the top 25 for a while.
Michigan without Io DeSumo.
Yep. Blew them
out. Ohio State.
Yep.
And then, Rutgers, which were ranked in the top 25, but again, a blowout. And then today they just beat Iowa.
Yeah.
Who, in a lot of people's mind, Iowa is a top contender for the national championship.
After what I saw today.
But, after what I saw today, will they make it to probably the Sweet 16, depending on their road? Probably.
It's possible.
But when you compare them to a team like Illinois is just deep.
Yes.
When you have, is his name Cabello?
Anthony Curbelo.
When he's on the bench.
Yeah.
That's
sixth man of
the
year in the Big Ten.
That says a lot.
Sixth man of the year in the Big Ten, and honestly, had a very underrated game for today. He came in and immediately set the tone for the defense that they wanted to pressure Iowa. He got a couple of key steals, a couple of key breakaway dunks that really got the atmosphere going. Obviously, with few fans, but
I think the steal it was early on in the first half where he stole it and the one-handed dunk. I think that just set the tone for the game.
Oh yeah, and he had another steal where the Iowa player had the ball up near his chest, and Curbelo comes in from behind him and literally two-handed ripped the ball away from him. Went in and dunked again. And after both of those fast break dunks, Iowa has to call a timeout because Illinois had just gone on a run.
Yeah.
But I want to say the possession right before that, both times were also fast break dunks or dunks of some kind to set the tone.
Yeah, in my mind, I don't think there's any way that you cannot put 2, if not 3 teams in the top 5 in the Big Ten.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I don't see how. Especially with Baylor losing their matchup with Oklahoma State yesterday.
Yeah.
With Oklahoma State being 12, I don't see Baylor staying in that number 2 spot, and with Illinois beating Iowa today, and then also Michigan losing to Ohio State today.
Mm-hmm.
I see Ohio State jumping up. I see Michigan jumping down. Iowa maybe stay around 4 or 5 since they lost to a team that's better, and Oklahoma State's going to jump. Baylor's gonna go down.
Even Gonzaga being number 1, they didn't look that impressive against BYU, who isn't even in the top 25. I think they're 26, but still.
You're a number 1 overall team.
Yeah.
You should be beating every unranked team.
Oh, exactly.
Consistently by plenty.
Going into that, what would be your top 5?
My top 5. Let's see here. I'm thinking my top 5 are gonna be number 1 at Illinois. I don't think you can put any other. I don't think you can put any other school at number 1. They have. AP has got Gonzaga there. They don't deserve it. Illinois is, like we've said before, beat Iowa. They beat Michigan. They beat Ohio State. They beat Wisconsin. Purdue is even in the top 25, and they beat them.
Yep.
Have they had their share of losses? Yeah, they got beat by Mizzou, who has been in the top 25 this year. They got beat by Rutgers, who again has been in the top 25 this year. And then they've lost to both Maryland and Michigan State, which I wouldn't even necessarily classify them as bad losses either. Maryland's in the tournament, and then Michigan State is also in the tournament at a 10 seed, more than likely around there. And Michigan State's beat Ohio State and Michigan. So, I mean, I don't know if you can really classify that as a bad loss. I honestly am still going to put Baylor at number 2. That might be it might be a surprise with Oklahoma State beating them today, but I think just based on their wins that they have had, and they haven't had really any bad losses. I mean, Oklahoma State they've lost to I think twice now, but again, top 15 team. And they beat Illinois, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, Kansas, Oklahoma State, Texas, West Virginia. They beat Oklahoma State again, and they beat Texas Tech. So, I mean, they're 2 of their losses. One was to Oklahoma State today, like I've said, and then they lost to Baylor. And then, or they lost to, not Baylor, they lost to, but I can't think of who the other one was. But my main reason that I have put
I know they lost. I think they lost to Kansas at one point.
Kansas.
Yeah.
That was the other one.
Which was a pretty big loss.
Yeah. But, I mean, the reason I have Illinois above Baylor, I mean, even though Baylor did beat Illinois earlier this year, Illinois has just played more games. They've played more games. They've played more consistently good teams with the amount of talent that's in the Big Ten this year. And just based on the games that Baylor have missed, like they've missed games against Texas, they've missed games against West Virginia, they've missed games against Oklahoma State. And then actually, there was a game where Baylor in December was supposed to play Gonzaga, and it never happened.
Yeah, and
it never happened.
Yeah,
so
and I think not only is that a bad game that didn't happen for Baylor, I think the bad game that didn't happen for Gonzaga.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, if that game happens, you could argue, okay, Gonzaga may be worthy of number 1.
Yeah.
But with that game not happening, it's I mean, again, it's hard putting Gonzaga number 1 when their conference schedule. I mean, yes, they won all the games that they're scheduled to play, but their conference is not to the same level as all these other big conferences in the NCAA.
So number 3. It might come as a surprise to some people, but I've got Ohio State at 3.
Okay.
They're sitting at with their win today against Michigan, they're sitting at 21-8. They beat Illinois, they beat Iowa, they beat Michigan now, they beat Wisconsin, they beat Purdue. Now they've had some bad losses. They lost to Northwestern. They lost to Minnesota.
They've lost to Purdue.
They lost
twice, actually.
Yeah, they've lost, but Purdue's top 25 team.
That is true.
And they lost to Michigan State, but again, Michigan State's beat Illinois and Michigan.
Yep.
I think and their 20-8 record is very misleading. Like you see those 8 losses, and you're thinking, okay, probably not top 5 worthy, but 4 of their losses have come at the end of the year, which has kind of put them back at their ranking right now. Their 4 straight losses that they took: Michigan, Michigan State, Iowa, Illinois.
Yeah,
I mean that's a tough stretch.
Which 3 of those 4 are
top 5
in my mind, top 5 teams.
They are now.
I'm gonna say especially right now.
Yeah.
So,
4, I've got Michigan.
Okay.
Even with them losing to Ohio State, there's not too many teams that are going to come into Michigan or come up against Michigan and be able to win. Even though, they have their times where they're super inconsistent.
Yeah.
And at 5, I've got Oklahoma State.
Okay.
Oklahoma State they're a solid team. With them just beating Baylor yesterday, they've really shown that they can show up for those big games. They beat Texas Tech twice, Kansas, Texas, Oklahoma twice, West Virginia twice, Baylor. They've played 8 straight games against ranked opponents, and the only loss that they had was to Baylor. And then they ended up beating Baylor 2 games later, and then beat Baylor again today.
Yeah.
Or yesterday. So, they've had bad losses. They took 2 bad losses to TCU, and they're under 500.
Yeah, I mean that's
those are bad losses.
Those are bad losses.
But
very bad losses.
Just with their stretch here at the last part of the year, they're a dangerous team.
And,
I think you put them at 5.
Yeah, and I mean I'll get into my top 5 too. I agree with you. Illinois for sure is number 1.
I don't see how anybody can put that, especially with their performance today.
Yeah, and my thing is they are quite possibly the deepest team in all of college basketball.
That's a solid observation.
And I think the only way that they might lose in the tournament is if Coburn and Io somehow get in foul trouble. That might be the only way they lose. And even then, you still have people that can plug in and play.
I mean,
so
that's definitely an issue. I know that, especially with as physical as Kofi Coburn really is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a monster. Just his physicality is crazy, and it's easy for him to get into foul trouble. But I've noticed that their coach Brad Underwood is he gets players in and out. He doesn't really let anybody get into foul trouble unless like they're coming in and they're getting foul and they're committing fouls within 2 minutes of them being into the game. And even if they were to get into foul trouble, I mean, especially with Kofi Coburn, you've got Georgie Bashanis-Vili, who's really stepped into because he was a starter last year on the power forward position, and he's really stepped into his bench role this year really well. I mean, he came into today with National Play of the Year consideration with Luka Garza, and I mean, granted, he didn't play as well as Kofi Coburn did in locking down Garza, but he certainly did his job in not allowing him to score as much as what he could have with Kofi on the bench.
Yeah.
I mean, they are deep. And then if Io gets in foul trouble, you've got Curbelo coming off the bench. You've got the freshman sensation Adam Miller, who's hitting threes all over the place. Trent Frazier, who can dish the ball off. I mean, you've got plenty of options with Illinois being a deep team, even if they get into foul trouble, which is one of the scariest things that I think we've seen in college basketball for quite a little while.
Oh, and I completely agree. And that's the reason why I would say Illinois is number 1.
Yeah.
In my top 5, I have kind of surprised. Number 2, I have Iowa. The reason I have them at number 2 is not necessarily Luka Garza, who, I mean, by far is a great player. Me personally, and we kind of talked about this off of stream, is I consider him to be more of a Tyler Hansbrough type player. Great in college. Not sure how well it's going to transfer into the NBA game. Obviously, he's going to be an NBA player. I mean, I don't see how he's not drafted. How well he is in college. But I put them at number 2 mainly because they have great shooting.
Bohannon is just.
Bohannon. I mean, both McCaffrey brothers, and then you have Joe Wieskamp, who we watched play at Blue Devil Gym, and put up 40 points there.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's a very, very underrated, very good player.
And I mean, shoot, with Wieskamp and with Bohannon, it doesn't matter if you're in their face 40 feet from them.
Exactly.
I watched Bohannon drain threes and guards' faces today against Illinois.
The only issue I have with Iowa is Wieskamp did get injured in not today's game, but the game before. He looked fine in today's game, but is that going to cause a nagging injury later on in the tournament? Maybe. I don't know. But if they get in foul trouble, they are hurting.
And that really showed in today's game with Garza. He really picked up I mean, it was kind of a ticky-tacky foul in the second half, but he picked up his 4th foul with 6 minutes left in the game on just a hand check or just an easy like I said, ticky-tack blocking foul, with Illinois trying to get the ball across half court.
Yeah.
And I mean, after that, if Garza's got 4 fouls and you can give the ball to Kofi Coburn inside and Garza can't be too physical with him because obviously he doesn't want to pick up his 5th, there's not much that they can do to win that game, especially already being down by, I think, 9 at that point.
And in my mind, like we saw in today's game, Coburn pretty much dominated the paint.
Yeah.
I mean, in all reality, Garza's the top player in the country, and Coburn pretty much just dominated today's game.
He did everything that he needed to do. He's an inside physical presence where Garza's 7 foot tall and used to being able to kind of bully his way inside. I don't really remember a circumstance today where he was able to really move Kofi Coburn that much at all.
Yeah.
His post moves weren't working. Kofi was right there with him, hands up. I mean, he blocked 2 or 3. I think he blocked 2 or 3 of Garza's shots. Garza really struggled today.
So I mean, going back to my top 5, at number 3, I had written down Michigan, but after seeing them play against Ohio State today, I don't necessarily consider them a top 5 team. So in my mind, number 3, I'd probably put Baylor. And they definitely did not look very good against Oklahoma State. And that's another thing. I have Oklahoma State number 5.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, especially with Cade Cunningham. I mean, he's quite possibly the best player in the country, you could argue, this year. I would still put I would assume above him, but for what Cade Cunningham's doing for that team, I think Oklahoma State's a very good team and a team that could make a run in the tournament for sure.
Yeah.
Depending on who they play up against, but so I put Baylor number 3. I put Oklahoma State number 5. Number 4, and this might be a little bit of an argument. I had Gonzaga.
No shot.
No
shot. Absolutely not.
I put Gonzaga number 4, and the reason being is not necessarily because of their schedule or because of their conference, but they have arguably. I looked at the Naismith's top players. They have 3 in the top 9. Now
that's easy. That happens easily when you don't play any competition.
Well, and that's what that's what
you could put.
Say.
You could put Pepperdine against AAU teams, and Pepperdine's going to have all their teammates and Naismith running for Player of the Year.
And in my mind, I really only think 2 should be up there. Maybe definitely not 3. But I also think that yes, their numbers are maybe skewed because of who they play.
Stat stuffing.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
I mean, if they played against teams in the Big Ten, like we talked about, would they have as good of numbers?
No,
probably not.
None of them would be in the
just
running.
Being honest,
none of them.
So, but that's my top 5.
I can't believe you have them at 4.
I have them at 4.
No. I have them at 14.
14.
14.
I just.
Looking at their quality wins and ranking them up against other teams that have been that are in the top 10 and in the top 15, they're matched up and would slot in right around the same as probably. You look here, it was right after Texas because they have a few less than Texas, but they have more than Villanova. And obviously, I don't think Alabama or Houston or Arkansas should be where they're at either. So I mean, that's kind of skewed anyway. But just assuming that 1 through 13 or 2 through 14 stay the same, Gonzaga is 14. There's no way they're top 5.
Here's my 2 cents on everything. Gonzaga against quad 1 teams are 8-0.
Okay, Illinois got the most quad 1 wins against any NCAA team.
And that's the other thing is Illinois, who I have number 1, is 11-5 against quad 1 teams.
Yes,
but then you have Michigan and Baylor, who are predicted to be number 1 seeds, and they each have 8 quad 1 wins, whereas Oklahoma, who's predicted to be a number 2, has 10.
Yeah.
So, in my mind, yes. Gonzaga 8-0. Well, quad 1 wins for them came early in the year when those teams were not predicted to be maybe where they're at right now.
Yeah.
So in my mind, maybe Gonzaga should be. I think they're still a top 4 team.
No.
And just based on who they have on their team, do I think that they might be the first number 1 seed out?
Yes.
Yes. I do. And that's a whole different conversation that we might get into. But I think that they could be the first number one seed out.
Yeah.
But going back to the top 5, Moose over there.
What you got?
You got any top 5?
What you got?
It's roughly the same as your guys'. You guys hit a lot of key points there. I don't agree with the whole Gonzaga thing in the top 5.
You think they should be lower?
They should definitely be lower.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm with you there.
Okay, so who'd you put in the top 5 over them?
It's a toughie, but I would say probably Texas.
Okay.
Texas.
Of all the teams in the top in your top 5, how many have you attended?
A couple actually.
Okay.
Baylor, I have attended. Gonzaga, I have not been to, but they're not even in my top 5. They're in yours.
That is true.
But thank you.
Yeah.
Baylor was a very good school. It was very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
High quality basketball.
Yeah.
High quality basketball.
High quality basketball.
High quality basketball.
I mean, hey, high quality football probably back in your day.
Well,
You know what else they got?
not quite.
High quality H2O.
Oh, I mean, Gatorade is better, but hey, that's a whole different issue. But so, Braden, what was our next topic? I can't remember.
Next topic is jumping into our top teams to watch out for in the tournament.
Well, going off of that, I think we already talked about. Obviously, I think a unanimous. I don't know what Moose's thoughts on this is, but Illinois is probably, in my mind, playing the best basketball of anybody in the country.
Yeah.
So I would say top team to watch out for the tournament, Illinois, which obviously going to be a number 1 seed, so everybody should know that it's a team to watch out for.
This is my disclaimer. I'm going to say it right now, put it on the record. Anthony Curbelo, know the name, recognize the name, be ready to hear it a lot.
Yes.
Big Ten 6th man of the year, played really well and has played really well all season. He is a guy to come off the bench. He's gonna set up the tempo for defense. He is a scrappy defender. He is passing the ball better than just about anybody I have seen play in college in quite a while. He passed a couple passes today. He's got some passing lanes that I didn't even know.
Yeah, there was one particular, I believe it was to Coburn,
that I wrap around between.
I was like, okay, was. And I want to say that the commentators were actually talking about his passing.
Yes.
While he did it, and I was like, you can just pencil him in.
Yeah.
Here's my question about Illinois though. Do you see Curbelo and Miller coming back next season, or do you think they'll go to the NBA?
I think that, well, first off, with Curbelo being a 6th man, granted he has done a great job, but I think he needs to learn how to jump into that starting role. So I think he comes back. Adam Miller, I think, comes back as well. He's played really well this year, but as a freshman, he still has a lot to learn. He showed some examples of it today where he's been wide open in the corner and he's missing easy shots. I think he airballed one today. Which happens, but in the NBA, you got to knock those down. If you're that open, you need to knock those shots down.
Yeah.
However, Kofi Coburn, Io, they're gone. Trent Frazier's graduating this year too.
Especially Coburn, who already tested the NBA market. It's pretty much a given.
Yeah.
He's gone. They came back. In my mind, they came back because they wanted to prove that they could win a championship.
And last year,
you could argue they would have made a huge run last year.
Oh yeah.
So for them to come this year, plus the freshmen they have coming in, there's a reason why they're a top team in the country.
Definitely, Illinois is going to be listed as a top team.
Yes.
I don't really know of very many other teams. Obviously, Baylor, Iowa, Oklahoma State. They're going to be top teams that really, I think they're going to be safe bet going into Sweet 16, Elite 8 maybe, depending on who they're playing. As far as top teams that are possibly going to be upset, I don't see Gonzaga getting far. I don't. I think maybe depending on who they play, they're going to be the number one possibility of a 1 seed getting upset by a 16 seed. I know a lot of people are going to say I'm crazy for saying it. Depending on the team that they play, if that team gets hot, Gonzaga hasn't been in close games. All of their games have been basically blowouts, except for the few games that were in the beginning of the year. So I mean, they haven't had to play close games. They haven't had to be clutch. I mean, gets down to a close game.
I mean, I see Gonzaga. My guess, I mean, and this probably won't happen, but my guess is when the bracket comes out tomorrow, Illinois is going to top them, especially if Illinois wins the Big Ten tournament.
I feel
like Illinois should top them. Will they? I don't know.
I doubt it.
In my mind, Gonzaga will probably make it to the Sweet 16. And the reason I say that is because they probably will not play anybody until then. But I already said this to begin with, they are going to be the first number 1 seed in my mind. They get knocked out.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm just a Gonzaga hater, but it's because they really haven't played.
Yeah. They haven't.
Anyone all year.
And it's not. That's just facts. They haven't played anyone. They haven't had close games. They've never had.
And by all means, you want to know what? Prove me wrong. I mean, if Gonzaga wins and they make it to the Final Four or win the national championship, I will sit here and I will say, hey, I was wrong.
I won't.
But I just they haven't played anybody, and you know I don't see them competing with a team like Iowa, Illinois.
No.
Even Michigan. I mean,
yeah.
The conference that the Big Ten is probably the best conference in the country right now.
Yeah, I would say so.
So I see Gonzaga losing it after the Sweet 16, maybe Elite 8, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Depends on who they have in the bracket
but
to play.
I actually wanted to ask you, and I know what your answer is going to be, and my answer is probably the same. But I looked at the bracket predictions for today, and Illinois, as the number 1 seed, could play Loyola Chicago in the second round. Do you think that would? I mean, granted, I still have Illinois killing them, but do you think it would actually be a pretty fun game to watch with both teams being from Illinois?
It's a cool storyline with Loyola Chicago making a run deep into the tournament a couple years ago, obviously without having the tournament last year. But I don't see it being much of a game.
Okay.
I mean, again, if any team gets hot and a team struggles, anything can happen. It's the NCAA tournament. Upsets happen all the time. But
yeah,
I don't see Illinois having too much of an issue against Loyola. I mean,
I would say, and I just want to ask the question because both teams are from Illinois. But
a couple of years, the run they made a couple of years ago, they really didn't have too many big men, right? It was basically just a smaller lineup that people were really having issues with.
Yeah, not really. And they definitely shot the three fairly decent that year too.
Well, my thing is that if they're planning on beating Illinois,
they're gonna need a big man.
If you're Illinois and they don't have a big man. Why? I mean, throwing Kofi Coburn, Bashanis Veely as your center power forward combo. Throw the ball inside, make them stop it. They won't be able to, especially Coburn being 7'2", 280, I think. Big man,
if not more.
Yeah, if not more, big man.
Another
me 150 times, that's for sure.
Another team that I kind of figure is an upset alert. And this based on predictions on where they're putting people right now at seedings, is Creighton as a number 5 seed against Western Kentucky as a number 12.
Well, Creighton's not. Creighton's in the same position as like a Gonzaga or like a Villanova. Yeah. They haven't played any, or Houston even. They haven't played anybody that. I mean, Creighton's had a couple of games against ranked opponents where it's been closer. But I mean, Creighton, and they could come out and they could prove us all wrong, and they could shoot the ball well and be able to command the game.
I mean,
but I just don't see them. I don't see them getting past the second round, even if they do get through the first.
And going into that, I mean, this year of all years, I mean, in the bubble with very little fans.
Yeah.
it's very wide open tournament. I mean, obviously you still have those top teams, you still have the top players that can lead their team to the promised land, so to speak. But I mean, this year of all years is going to be kind of a different tournament compared to other years where you're traveling from different cities to different areas of the country.
Yeah.
This year it's all in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So will
it's a good thing for the city of Indianapolis.
Oh, 100%. I mean, but with that being said, will some teams struggle compared to other teams? It's kind of hit or miss, and I don't know. I mean, I see. The reason why I brought out the Creighton Western Kentucky is not necessarily because Western Kentucky is better than Creighton, but because that could be an easy 12-5 matchup, like any year. That I feel like that's the biggest upset possibility, and especially with Creighton's recent drama, so to speak, in the national aspect. Their coach said something about a plantation thing. I mean, I don't want to get into all that, but just with the drama on their team, plus the fact that Western Kentucky is not a bad team at a 12 seed.
Yeah.
It could be an upset alert. We're not telling you guys to go ahead and fill your bracket out at that as for sure an upset, but
it's a possibility.
It's a very big possibility. So,
I mean, I've got another team I think that's going to be on upset alert that might be surprising to some. Michigan.
Yeah.
Michigan. Yeah. I see them as, granted, the game that they played today in the Big Ten tournament semifinal against Ohio State was close, but Ohio State choked away the game late. They were up, I want to say, by like 9 with a minute left in the game and almost lost that game. Michigan is just too inconsistent. I mean, they have good wins, and then they have games where they play Illinois. Illinois doesn't have Ayo Dosunmu, their best player, and they get blown out.
Completely blown out.
Not even. And granted, they didn't shoot the ball well that game. They didn't play well defensively. But the thing is that in order to make a run in the NCAA tournament, you need to be consistent. You need to be able to come out and always be able to shoot the ball consistently around that 40 to 45%, maybe even a 50. If you're shooting the ball well, and I don't see Michigan being able to do that consistently from game to game, especially against good teams.
I would agree with that. I would.
Houston and Alabama, I see them as upset alert too. They haven't played anybody.
I mean,
they haven't played anybody.
Of those two, I would put more of a Houston at an upset alert over Alabama, just because the conference schedule.
See, I don't know though, because Alabama's played 3 ranked teams all year, and they've won against 1. That's it.
That's true.
They've won against 1 ranked opponent all year, and for them to be as high seeded as they are, I mean, for example, you have a Michigan State that's supposed to be at 10. I mean, you could have some dangerous teams that are lower in the bracket, like a Maryland or like a. Just speaking from Big Ten aspect, because that's what I'm familiar with. But I mean, Maryland. I mean, Rutgers. Even. I mean, they're going to be a late seed. So I mean, you get somebody up against Alabama that knows what they're doing, that's played well all year, played against tough competition all year. I think it could get ugly real fast for Alabama.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, going off of upset alert teams, do we want to get into some? So sticking with the March Madness theme, who do you see as top players in the nation, the tournament? I mean, I think I would say like just in the tournament, because I mean, in the nation at this point it's kind of a little low.
Yeah. I'm thinking as far as top player in the nation, I mean, it's hard to get more consistent and more of a round player than Ayo Dosunmu. And that's not necessarily just me being biased as an Illinois fan. And I mean, I see him play more than I do most any other teams and players. But just looking at his stat line for his year, and that, granted, he's missed 3 or 4 games with a facial fracture, but he is got 21 points per game, 6 rebounds.
Yep.
He's got 5 assists.
Yep.
1 steal per game. He's shooting 50% from the field, and he's shooting 39% from three.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
It's hard to get more of a round player than Io.
And that's what kind of irritates me. I looked this up last night, and they have Cade Cunningham as projected the number 1 pick in the NBA draft.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at Cade Cunningham's stat line.
It's worse.
And it is
close, but
it's
worse.
very close. Cade Cunningham is averaging 19.8 points per game, 6.3 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and 1 block. I didn't look at the field goal percentage or the
I'll tell you what
percentage.
I'll tell you what his shooting percentage is. 34.
Yeah.
34% shooting. I didn't get his 3-point percentage, but 34% shooting. So his Io shooting a 3 better than Cade Cunningham is shooting from the field.
Yeah.
Including layups, dunks,
and
all that stuff.
And my 2 cents on that is, if they're looking at him being the number 1 pick, I wonder if it's because they think that he's going to have a better NBA career. But even then, it's hard saying that Io is not going to have a better career.
Yeah.
I mean, he can take over a game. Obviously, I know it's in college.
He's seen it numerous times this year.
But
last year.
Yeah, he can just take over a game. He's very clutch. I mean,
yeah, he's one
just
of the most clutch players in college.
some of the shots he can make in the clutch is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, in just look at the stats. Me personally, I don't know how you have Cade Cunningham over Io DeSumo.
I don't either.
Or even better yet, granted, I know we talked about Luka Garza earlier that I compared him to Tyrell Hansbrough in college.
Yeah.
But
I
even if you compare Cade Cunningham to Io DeSumo and Luka Garza even has a better stat line than Cade Cunningham does.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand it's a big man, but
yeah.
I just personally, Cade Cunningham's a great player, and I definitely enjoyed watching him play this year, but
yeah.
I don't know about number
fun
one
player to watch.
I don't know about number 1 player in the draft.
Yeah. I had Luke Garza as a top player, but after really watching him play against other bigs that were going to be in the NBA, like Kofi Cockburn today.
Oh, exactly.
I don't know if I have him as a top player. Kofi Cockburn dominated him today.
Yeah.
Dominated him today. And if he's coming up against other big men along those lines in the tournament, I don't see him being able to be as effective unless his shooters are shooting that well to where they have to stretch the floor. The defense has to stretch the floor more. But I think Kofi Cockburn is going to be a big difference maker with Illinois. A lot of people have kind of not necessarily written him off or not necessarily kind of forgotten about him, but a lot of the starlight and shine has really been on Io DeSumo this year. He's got. His Io stat line talks for itself, but Kofi Cockburn averages a double-double per game with a block.
Even nationally, more people talk about Io DeSumo on Illinois than they do Kofi Cockburn.
Oh yeah.
And I guess that's.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah, there's a reason for it, but Kofi is up there as well.
He's a man. To see him come in as a freshman last year, and to see how much he has progressed from the beginning of last year to the game today, his defense has gotten 10 times better. His footwork down the paint with the ball 10 times better. His positioning 10 times better. And he hasn't been playing basketball for that long. Coming from Jamaica, he played a couple of years at, I believe, Oak Hill in high school, and just coming in and playing 2 years of college. Whenever he gets to the NBA and is with those coaches that can better show him the way, if he's paired with a former big man that's coaches now, the sky's the limit for him. He's got so much raw power, raw talent. It's incredible.
And I know we talked about that after last season that we thought for sure he was top 10 pick.
Yeah.
He's for him to come back to college and honestly make his game even better.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a question that he's a top 10 pick in this
No.
year's NBA draft.
If he slides down past 10,
it's a steal.
It's a steal.
Oh, 100%.
It's a steal.
Yeah.
And those are really, I mean, those are the top players that I'm seeing. I mean,
another guy that is not necessarily a top player in the nation, but that I personally kind of looked up just because I was curious, and we got to see him play in the Quincy Shootout in town, is Jeremiah Robinson Earl.
Okay, yeah.
No, he's playing for Villanova.
Villanova.
I think he was looking at Arizona, but he ended up going to Villanova. He's averaging 15.5 points per game, 8 rebounds. His assists are only about 2, but he's shooting about 50% from the field.
He's an off ball guard. He's an off ball forward though.
Forward. So I mean, for him, in Villanova, honestly, in my mind, might be ranked a little higher for how many games that they had to miss because of COVID or postponed. I mean, they had, I think it was 6 or 7 games in a row where they had to miss games.
Yeah.
But me personally, I like the Quincy Shootout for a simple fact that we get to see top college talent.
Yeah.
But we get to follow them into college and see how they're doing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to look him up, and I mean, just comparing to some of his numbers, obviously it's not as good as Io, as Kofi, Luke Garza, or even some of the other, like Kate Cunningham or anything like that. But he's definitely considered.
Noticeable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
noticeable.
And especially for a team like Villanova, who's arguably still, one of the better teams in the nation, just as a program.
Yeah.
Do I think that they're going to be, a Sweet 16 team this year?
No.
Probably not. But definitely noticeable.
Yeah.
So
bridging off of that, as far as Villanova missing a bunch of their games with the COVID protocols, what are we thinking as far as if a team were to get a positive test? So like we had Duke that was taken out of the ACC tournament because they had a positive test.
Yeah.
So I mean, what are we thinking as far as if a team has a positive test? Are they?
I did read somewhere that I guess the NCAA said as long as you have 5 people that can play, you're eligible to still play in the NCAA tournament. Whether that, now, I don't know how that's going to work if, they have bench players who have redshirted all year.
Yeah.
That they have to take the redshirt away just for the NCAA tournament. I don't know. And then there's also something about they may be able to play without a coach. The NCAA was still looking into that.
Maybe do like a bench coach or something
like
that and do an interim.
In my mind, I hope it doesn't take away from the tournament. I know that obviously Duke had to leave their ACC tournament. I think Kansas had to leave the Big 12. I just hope that, inside this bubble, we don't have some of these teams have to end up, either forfeiting or only playing with some of their bench players basically in their tournament games, which won't really make. It's still gonna be an NCAA tournament, but it's not gonna make as good of a game.
Yeah, and plus you've got those teams like Creighton, for example, that aren't in this situation all the time. They've got seniors that have played there for 4 years, and that this is their dream to get to the NCAA tournament, to have a decent seed, and to be able to possibly make a run in the tournament. And then if their game was to be forfeited because they had a COVID-related absence or they had players that weren't able to play, and that's how they get knocked out of the tournament. It's just it'd be heartbreaking, especially for a senior.
Yeah,
putting all that work in and then having something like COVID take it all away.
Yeah,
which I mean can be seen as the same thing for a team like Duke. I mean, if they have players that are going to leave after this year, I mean, it misses out on the college experience for the NCAA tournament. Like Duke is normally in the tournament.
Yeah, which
there's a possibility that they could have made a run. I mean, they haven't played well this year, but I mean, it's Duke, it's Coach K. I mean, they can make a run. It just takes getting hot at the right time.
And I mean, in my mind, no one on that Duke team should really go pro. I mean, I know Jalen Johnson already is, but in my mind, I think all of them could use another year. Not just because like how bad a season they had, but because I think they all could evolve their game. So
Yeah.
But I mean, speaking of Duke.
Yeah, speaking of Duke, we did have a question in one of our Facebook posts. Jeremy was wanting to know that if Coach K was a flavor of ice cream, what flavor of ice cream do we think that he would be?
Moose,
we're going to start this one off.
We were going to start this one off.
I say that he will be mint ice cream.
Mint ice cream.
Why
is there
mint?
a reason to that, or
Because winners eat mint ice cream.
Coach
K is a winner.
All right. I like
All
it.
right.
I like it. Gregory, what do you think?
I put Coach K as just plain old vanilla ice cream.
You son of a.
The reason I put him at vanilla, I mean, I'm sorry to say that, is vanilla is very just, everyone knows vanilla.
Yeah.
But then you can always add, chocolate syrup, sprinkles, or something like that, makes it more of a new age type ice cream.
Yeah.
And I feel like Coach K, first off, he's pale as hell. So
Yeah.
vanilla is perfect for him.
Yeah.
But second, I mean, with this new age of one and dones, it's kind of like the sprinkles and chocolate icing just on top. Which is probably exactly what you were gonna say.
No, I mean, I was gonna say that vanilla is just the goated ice cream flavor. Everybody can yell at me. They can throw shade in the comments. I don't care what you tell me. If there's a well-made vanilla ice cream, it is putting every other ice cream to shame. I don't care. I don't care.
But, hey, speaking of vanilla ice cream, vanilla bean, that's where it's at.
I've got some in the I got some in the freezer.
Yeah, man.
I mean, vanilla ice cream is also that traditional ice cream. It's nothing too fancy, but at the same time, it's versatile. So I mean, you can, you said, you can do anything with a vanilla ice cream. But since you said vanilla ice cream, I'm gonna switch it up. I'm not gonna be the same. I'm just gonna throw out a different one. He's gonna be pralines and cream.
Oldest ice cream out there.
It's the oldest thing that I can think of, and Coach K is one of the oldest coaches in college basketball. He's got the most wins. He's got, it's just always it's always been around.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and
you took my ice cream.
And with that being said, I mean, we definitely appreciate the questions in the comment and our comments on Facebook, or Instagram, Twitter. We're gonna be uploading stuff on TikTok too. So I mean, keep asking us questions. We will try to address every single question in the podcast as well.
Speaking of social media, we are actually having a bracket challenge for the March Madness tournament. The link for the challenge is going to be on our Facebook page, just Unfinished Business, and then it's also on ESPN.com. So if you go to ESPN.com, you're just going to click on that fantasy tab and click on the men's tournament challenge. Yep. And then you're going to go to groups and search for Unfinished Business 4294808. Once again, Unfinished Business 4294808. And you're going to use the password unfinished, uncapitalized, and we're going to use number 21. So unfinished 21, not capitalized. And then the winner of that bracket challenge is going to receive a $25 Amazon gift card. And then it's also going to be the first Unfinished Business t-shirt that is going to be made by our sponsor, Creations by Kane. So it's exciting. We're going to have our first little challenge. And we're also going to throw a little bit on the line extra for us four. So the winner of the challenge, we're going to divide it up into twos. So the top two guys are going to pick costumes for the losing two to wear on the podcast right after the tournament ends. So you'll have to tune into that episode, see who lost, and see what kind of outfits the winners have.
And we're not talking about just normal costumes. We're talking about embarrassing.
We're talking
extremely embarrassing costumes.
Oh, so
we're
not going easy on each other.
Yeah, we're not gonna go easy.
We're not taking it easy.
Pride is definitely gonna be hurt.
Yes,
is my guess. So
it's all on the line here.
Yeah.
And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw it over to Chandler. He's going to have a few things to say about NASCAR. So throwing it over to Chandler.
Hey, thanks guys. As I said, my name's Chandler, and the reason it gives me the satisfaction to talk about racing is I have a racing background to 2 to 3 years of watching racing and being a part of racing myself, because I race go-karts in Quincy. So what we're going to talk about today is the previous race at Las Vegas, which consisted of the starting 5, which were Kevin Harvick, William Byron, Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr., Michael McDowell. And Michael McDowell himself has had a great season so far, winning Daytona as his first career Cup Series race. That was a hell of a win for himself to make it that far as like a rookie. Some people that were not really in the top 10 that should have definitely been in the top 10 were Ryan Newman and Kyle Busch. They're normally in the top 10, so it was a very bad surprise to see them in like 13th and 14th. So in the first stage, an upset happened where Kevin Harvick was hit by Eric Jones, the 43 car, and he had a flat tire, which caused him to have to move back positions, which put him back to, I think, 22nd, if I'm not mistaken. And in stage 3, the biggest upset of the race was Chase Elliott being involved in a loose wreck. They're saying that it's his fault, but then again they're saying that it's Kurt Busch's fault because Kurt Busch hit him up into the wall. So they're really not sure at this point in time, but honestly I just think Chase Elliott got loose and came down, hit Kurt Busch, which made Kurt Busch under caution move back spaces, as well as Chase Elliott. In the last stage, everyone thought there was going to be a huge wreck when Alex Bowman, who's now driving Jimmy Johnson's car, was going on to pit road and decided to turn right in front of a guy that was going 170 miles an hour, and he was going around 60, slowing down to 45, which is pit speed. So let's talk about Kyle Larson, the winner of the Las Vegas race. So on lap 1, he decided to make a move to lead the race and go 3 wide. This win that he had was his first ever Cup win on a 1.5 mile track. In stage 2, he was ahead of Brad Keselowski by at least 4 seconds, which is also how much he won his 7th career win, his first since 2019. He led 103 laps of this race. Another thing that is happening in the NASCAR this year is you don't really see a lot of the big names winning. It's mostly the younger kids or newer generation that have shown more skill to me personally this year, like Kyle Larson and William Byron, over guys like Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, Kurt Busch, Kyle Busch, and all of the older generation. I mean, the young guns are just coming in and sweeping those guys like crazy. So the final results of the race, as you all know, Kyle Larson won, Brad Keselowski in 2nd, Kyle Busch in 3rd, Denny Hamlin in 4th, and Ryan Blaney in 5th. People that really should have gotten to the top 5 or at least top 10 were Chase Elliott, Kurt Busch, and Kevin Harvick. The reason why I say Kevin Harvick, even after the flat tire thing, was he was running so good that day, and he definitely did not deserve to finish 20th. So that's all for today, and I will give it back to the guys at the desk.
Thank you, Chandler. I appreciate the information there on the NASCAR. Definitely some information that I was not aware of, and very well said. So moving on into our next segment, we're going to be talking about Major League Baseball. With Major League Baseball season coming up and with spring training already starting, figured we'd talk about some big offseason moves that were made by some teams, where new players have signed, trades that happened. So just jumping into that, one of the bigger moves I think that's kind of flown under the radar is Jackie Bradley Jr. He goes from the Red Sox and is now with the Brewers, not the Dodgers. He's with the Brewers. He signed a 2-year, $24 million contract with the Brewers. I think he's going to slot in real nice there with Milwaukee, who's made some good moves this offseason. Definitely making a push here in the NL Central.
Stealing Colton Wong from the Cardinals as well.
Yep. And as a Cardinal fan, I am, you know, he just won a Gold Glove with us. I'm kind of sad to see him go, but at the same time, we've got some players moving up in the system, and you know, his offense was lacking for us. I'm hoping that he goes to the Brewers, and I hope he really shines. I hope he finds his offensive game, and wish him the best for sure.
You hope he shines, but not too much in that division.
No. I hope when he plays the Cardinals, he goes 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts.
Exactly.
Or even 0 for 5.
And I think that Jackie Bradley Jr. Signing is going to definitely help the Brewers out.
Oh yeah.
Are they going to compete in that division? I still see the Cardinals as obviously the clear favorites to win that division, especially after their own signing in this free agency or not really free agency, but trade, I guess.
Well, speaking of signing, they did have 2 big signings that they did happen. Yadier Molina and Adam Wainwright re-signed with the team. Probably going to be their last year, if not maybe one more year after this for them too. It's bittersweet seeing their careers come to an end, but obviously good to see them back in Cardinal red. It would have been weird to see them anywhere else.
Well, and bittersweet, but arguably, 2 of the best careers that you could possibly have. So it's bittersweet, but as a fan of a different team other than the Cardinals, retire already. I hate to say that as a fan of a different team, but it'd be nice to see them retire finally, and maybe see the Cardinals struggle for a little bit, which probably isn't going to happen. But
but just jumping, we'll come back to the Cardinals here in a minute, but jumping around to another contender in the National League, Justin Turner re-signs with the Dodgers for 2 years of $34 million, and then maybe the biggest signing in the National League this year, Trevor Bauer goes to the Dodgers, adds to that pitching rotation, 3 years, $102 million, which is a very odd contract for Trevor Bauer. If you're offered $100 million, I wouldn't turn it down personally. I don't see anybody that would. But usually a 1-year contract player.
Yeah, if they needed anybody else.
If they needed anybody else.
Just won the World Series, signed arguably the best pitching guy out there. That rotation, arguably one of the best in baseball now. If it wasn't already. So it's hard to say any other team can compete with that. I'm hoping, in my own mind, maybe the Padres can, with their own signings. They signed Yu Darvish, who hasn't really.
Well, they traded for him.
Well, yeah.
They gave up. They got
Yu Darvish
and they traded Zach Davies
and Blake, and they got Blake Snell, who arguably both of those hit or miss.
Yeah.
But in my mind, the Padres are trying to go with a win now mentality, especially signing Fernando Tatis Jr. to
contract.
A very big contract, basically making him a Padre for his career almost.
Yeah.
You could argue. So
a win now mentality.
Yeah, it's definitely a win now mentality. Will it be enough to compete with a team like the Dodgers? I don't know. We'll have to see. The Dodgers are still, in my mind, the clear favorites in the National League. Will they have some competition this year? I sure hope so.
Yeah.
But it's hard to argue against a team that just won the World Series and adding in another top pitcher in the league. So, in my mind, they definitely still are probably number one.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, the National League at least, the Mets definitely made themselves a case.
Yeah.
Maybe not pitching wise, but
they traded with they traded with the Indians. They got themselves Francisco Lindor and Carlos Carrasco.
Yep.
And really, they traded Ahmed Rosario and they trade Andres Jimenez. In 2 minor leaguers, but really you're getting a all-star quality shortstop franchise player with Francisco Lindor.
Well, and they also
Carlos Carrasco.
I can't remember exactly if he was already traded before this offseason, but Porcello and Walker.
Yeah.
Both went to the Mets, as well as in my mind, as a White Sox fan, a very underrated signing for the Mets, James McCann.
Yeah. And the Mets also added closing and bullpen help in Trevor May.
Yeah. So there's a reason why in the rankings the Mets are at, I think, number 5.
They're top. If they're not top 5, they're right outside.
Yeah. So in my mind, the Mets are going to be a very good team. Will they be able to compete with the Dodgers or even a team like the Cardinals, who I say are still going to be a very top team? I think they ranked the Cardinals at number 11, which I think is very low.
That's
for that team.
Yeah.
But will they be able to compete with them? I believe so. Obviously that's the reason why they play the games. So I hope we can see that. But I think the Mets are going to be a team to compete with.
Yeah.
So in my mind, that's definitely the National League side of it.
Well, I mean, we still got one of the biggest trades to go over for the National League. Nolan Arenado goes to the Cardinals. That was a steal. As a Cardinals fan, I mean, what else could you ask for? You got a Gold Glove caliber third baseman. You give up a left-handed pitcher in Austin Gomber and 4 minor league prospects. But I mean, you're giving up a lot there with the 4 minor league prospects. Mm-hmm. But you're getting a proven third baseman that is Gold Glove and Platinum Glove winners for the last 5 years, I want to say.
It's
also
been
not only are they getting Arenado, the Rockies are paying the Cardinals $51 million to take Arenado off of their hands. So I mean, I don't see a lose situation there for the Cardinals. I don't.
Yeah, and what I don't understand as the Rockies organization is that whole trade.
What are you doing?
I mean, you basically.
I know Arenado wasn't happy there, but I mean, you're giving up Arenado and $51 million to pay his salary.
Yeah, and basically a play against you. I mean, and it's not like the Rockies were a bad team. I mean, were they going to compete? Maybe not, but they definitely had an opportunity.
Yeah.
And that trade was definitely one-sided in my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's
all the way.
We'll kind of see what happens in the future with these prospects, but in my mind, the Cardinals definitely made it out with the better end of that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the Rockies are thinking with Arenado's injury that they're thinking he might drop off toward the latter end of his career, and they're wanting to get out and get what they can for him. Like I said before, he wasn't happy there. He was wanting to move on anyway. He wanted to go to a winning team.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe they're just trying to get what they can. I mean, the last real big signing, I guess, George Springer.
Yeah,
goes to the Blue Jays. 6 years, $150 million.
And in my mind,
to get away from those Astros.
Yeah, in my mind, that signing kind of makes the Blue Jays an interesting team to watch.
Yeah.
You already have a very underrated team to begin with. George Springer
might have some winning culture back in Toronto.
Exactly. And George Springer going to the Blue Jays. I mean, granted, was he really that good, or was it more of the trash can beating? I don't know, but arguably a very, very underrated signing that not many people are probably going to look into. Especially with this Nolan Arenado situation and the Cardinals getting him, especially in our area.
Yeah.
But
not a lot of love for the AL out here.
Yeah, George Springer going to the Blue Jays was a very good signing for them. I believe. Now, granted, will they still be able to compete in the American League?
I mean, with the Red Sox having a down year, probably the Yankees are probably going to own that division. I mean, they could sneak into a wild card spot and make the playoffs and make a run. But I mean. It's going to be awful hard to beat the Yankees this year.
And granted, Blake Snell left the Tampa Bay Rays, but for whatever reason, the Tampa Bay Rays can turn underrated players into a top team. So
we'll see what happens.
So we will definitely see what happens. I mean, in my mind, I'm a White Sox fan, and I want to say that. Do I think the White Sox are the best team in the American League? Maybe not, but.
They're going to be competitive.
They're definitely going to be.
They're going to be competitive.
Win now mentality, kind of like the Padres.
Yeah. Which is kind of odd to see from a White Sox team.
Yeah.
For the last couple of years.
The only thing that I'm interested in seeing is can Tony La Russa's
Can his coaching style
style go into this whole new era of baseball?
Me and you have had this conversation before with the limitations with the bullpen. When he was a manager of the Cardinals, that's what he was known for, was just mastering bringing in arms out of the bullpen at the right time, getting the matchups that you liked.
Yep.
You can't do that anymore because you have to either finish the inning, you have a 3-batter minimum. You can't go up and you only have a certain amount of mound visits that you're allowed. It'll be interesting to see if he really can transition into this new era.
And I will say, I mean, the White Sox did make a couple signings of their own. Liam Hendriks, probably one of the better bullpen guys out there. They signed, as well as, and arguably one of the lower-rated starting pitching, Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn actually led the league in quality starts last year.
As a Cardinals fan, I don't have much to say about Lance Lynn.
I knew you wouldn't.
He had a couple good years with us, and he had 1 year where he played really well. I don't have any type of ill-mannered thoughts toward Lance Lynn or anything along those lines. It's just he was a player that was there. He had a good year, and after that he kind of fell off. He sure had his good years and sure had his good starts throughout the year. But and he would come out every once in a while and would get just destroyed.
And I mean, as a White Sox fan, 100% the pitching has been the reason why they have not been able to be competitive in recent years. Now, last year they did make the postseason. They lost to the Oakland Athletics. So it was nice to see them make the playoffs finally after years of watching just honestly pathetic baseball. So I'm hoping, with Lance Lynn, with Liam Hendriks, obviously they still have Lucas Giolito, Keuchel, who in my mind was a very underrated player last year, probably the best pitcher on that staff. Kopech is supposed to come up and be a very good starting pitcher. In my mind, the White Sox, obviously I'm a fan, but they are a team to watch out for. When you have a lineup that consists of Jose Abreu, Tim Anderson, I'm going to say Jimenez as a bat, not necessarily as a left fielder, because it's very, very hard watching him play the outfield. But he wants to. We'll see what La Russa does with him. I see him more as a DH role myself. But then you have Luis Robert, who arguably is one of the top young prospects in all of baseball. It's a very interesting team to watch. Do I necessarily see them as the best team in the American League? They're up there. But again, it all comes down to pitching with them. And
it's kind of,
their offense could score quite possibly 4 or 5 runs a game. But their pitching,
and that's going to be the issue coming down the stretch, getting into the postseason and making runs toward that World Series. Is once you get into the playoffs, it's a completely different game. People are going to be more conservative, and your defense and your pitching has to be on point to win the series.
And that's why the Lance Lynn signing, I think, is going to maybe help, especially if he can keep those quality starts. But I mean, their bullpen last year was very good. So can they keep it the same pace this year? We'll see.
Have to see.
Mr. Moose over there, I know you're a Red Sox fan. What do you think of?
Thoughts here?
What do you think of them getting rid of Benintendi, as well as?
Well, like Braden said, it's just going to be kind of a rundown year for them.
Yeah, it's definitely an off year. It's going to be weird to see them toward the bottom of the AL East, but I mean, every team goes through those ups and downs patches. But I mean, talking teams, as far as teams that are going to be most exciting to watch, you hinted at the White Sox. I'm gonna be biased for a second. I'm gonna say that the Cardinals are going to be a pretty exciting team to watch. I mean, you have that add of Nolan Arenado. You have Wainwright and Molina coming back for possibly their last year. Something that most people might not know. Arenado and Molina have combined for 8 of the last 10 platinum gold gloves,
Yep.
all in the same
Yep.
infield. Well, catcher and third base, but I mean,
and not to cut you off, but arguably that infield could be one of the best in baseball.
think if they would have kept like Colton
Colton
Wong,
Wong,
you would
yep.
have had a Gold Glove second baseman, a Gold Glove first baseman, a Gold Glove and Platinum Glove winner in third base, and then a Gold Glove and Platinum winner at catcher. And then you also have Wainwright, who, if I'm right, has also won at least one Gold Glove as well.
I was saying their shortstop is probably going to be
DeYoung.
DeYoung,
Yeah.
and he hasn't won a Gold Glove yet, has he?
No.
But
no, he's shown some
but
flashes.
a very good
He
at bat.
can- he
Very
can-
good bat.
Yeah, he can flash the leather
Yeah.
too, for sure. But Jordan Hicks coming out of the bullpen, throwing 105 with sinker movement. His slider's nasty.
And
It's a fun, especially to be there in person. And Busch Stadium is going to allow some fans there this year. So I mean, but being there in person, it's just electric whenever.
And I guess my question for you is, as a Cardinals fan, are they going to have Hicks as a closer, or are they going to still keep Carlos Martinez in the bullpen?
I think that they're looking right now at keeping Jordan Hicks in that closing role. He did such a great job whenever he was there 2 years ago, because he had to have Tommy John last year at the beginning of the year, unfortunately. And I think they're going to look at moving Martinez back into a starting role. I'm not sure how I feel about that with his inconsistency and getting through the first inning without a blow-up inning.
I almost
he fixes that.
No, I mean, not being a Cardinals fan, I don't really watch them all too much, but I almost wonder letting him kind of be a setup role.
A setup in the
like kind of like a 6 to 8 inning, like sixth inning to eight inning guy.
Yeah.
Kind of pitched like maybe 3 innings, maybe even just 1 or 2, and not necessarily making him into a starter. But I do know that
the thing is though with that is that you're bringing in that opportunity of that first inning. Like if as a starter he comes in and struggles that first inning out of the bullpen, he could have the same issue and come out and have a blow up inning, and all of a sudden a game where you were in control, you're all of a sudden tied, or you're down 2, or down 1, or another reliever comes in, bases loaded, nobody out. But something else so we've talked about the Cardinals infield with it being Arenado at third, DeYoung at short, and Goldschmidt at first. That second base spot is open. And I'm not sure if you have heard about one of the Cardinal prospects that's coming up. He played with South Carolina, I believe. Was drafted not last year, but the year before, Nolan Gorman.
I actually did hear that name.
He is a third baseman that's good power hitter. He's got a decent arm. So reports that were coming out of the Cardinals camp was that he heard about the Nolan Arenado trade. The day he heard about the Nolan Arenado trade, he called the GM himself, John Mozeliak, and told him that he wanted to go into spring training early. And Mozeliak checked with the league office and everything along those lines and gave him permission to come in and work in early. He's getting reps at second base.
Yeah.
So with that bat and from what they have said, I know his spring training so far has kind of been poor. He's gotten 1 hit, I think, but I mean I've seen some highlights of him in the minors. And obviously, it's not against that competition. But he's got some pop.
And definitely, I mean, he may not make the team out of spring training, but.
Honestly, anything to get Carpenter off the field, please.
Oh yeah.
Get him off the field.
And that's another thing.
Not in the DH role.
Yeah, that's another thing I was going to talk to you about is now that Arenado is at third base, obviously Carpenter's not going to play as much.
No.
He may obviously,
especially with the National League not doing the DH this year.
Yeah, and
I'm excited for that.
He may switch in and out with Goldschmidt to give Goldschmidt rest.
He better not.
But in my mind,
I'm a Matt Carpenter hater.
The Cardinals fans loved him the year that he hit 300 with just an unreal amount of RBIs and home runs. Personally, I've never thought Carpenter was really that good.
He's an in-between hitter. He likes to hit leadoff. He can't transition into that, that year that he had all the home runs. He couldn't transition into a power slot in that third position. He complained about not hitting leadoff because that was where he was most comfortable. So then you've got Dexter Fowler, who was with the team at that point. You've got him hitting in an uncomfortable spot. You've got Wong, who was hitting in an uncomfortable spot in that second role. You've got Yachty that's hitting in a fifth spot compared to being able to hit later down in the lineup because they need an RBI guy, and Yachty is that guy to drive in runs whenever need be. He kind of just throws everything off about the lineup.
And
I'm never
not just that, but you also look at the way that he plays the field, and very weak arm at third.
Liability.
Playing
erratic at second.
Yeah, playing first, probably in my mind, it's probably the best for him though.
Yeah.
Because
best for him is on the bench, but
in the
field,
that's a whole different issue. But
in the field, first base is his best bet, unless he was going to be in a DH role. But I don't even want to see him there. I want to see him on a different team or retire.
Yeah, and honestly, for him in his career, it might be best to see him be traded.
He needs to be in an American League team. He's
honestly, yeah.
He needs to be on an American League team. He's kind of like that David Ortiz type. Like it's a weird person to compare him to because he's obviously nothing like David Ortiz.
Not the power like
as
David
far
Ortiz.
As far as like the defensive liability and not having a place to play him in the National League, he needs to go to the American League where he can get his at bats. He can get his. He can be in that DH role for a team that's maybe struggling or for a team that's looking for somebody to just get that OBP, on base percentage up.
Now
he draws a lot of walks. He sees the plate really well. It's just in the National League when you have that pitcher spot already there and it's already basically strikeout waiting to happen. I mean, some pitchers, #pitchers who rake, some can hit pretty well, but most of the time it's a ground out, strikeout, weak pop fly, and you can't have multiple players. And the Cardinals already have that with their outfield. Their outfield is going to be a offensive.
Yeah. Defensively, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Offensively, hey, maybe they might surprise people, but
Harrison Bader can stop swinging at sliders.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting offensively minded team.
I mean,
but just going back to the Carpenter thing, if he switches over to an American League team, and obviously we're saying if.
Yeah.
Would you consider him? Would you consider him being possibly the next Alan Craig, where he goes to an American League team?
Yeah.
As a very, very great Cardinal player.
Yeah.
Very liked in St. Louis. I mean, maybe not so much now for Carpenter, but goes to the American League and I don't think Alan Craig, he might still be in the minor leagues, or is he's retired now? Okay.
He's done. I think he actually works in the front office of.
Okay.
He might work in the front office of either the Red Sox or the Cardinals.
Yeah.
One of the two.
So,
but
I could easily see Carpenter trying to go to the American League, trying to make a career out of that.
He'd have to go to a struggling American League team. Like he'd have to go to
Orioles.
The Orioles. He'd have to go to the Mariners. He'd have to go to, either one of them two teams.
Yeah.
And then he might be able to stay. But if he goes to a team like the Yankees, like the White Sox, like any of them.
He can always go to your Red Sox, Moose.
No thanks.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. If he goes to any one of those teams, he might stick in the majors for a little bit as a player to come off the bench, but he'll be in the minor leagues before too long. And then whenever he doesn't make the team the next year, I think he'll retire.
Yeah. But I mean. Going back to teams that we are excited about, I mean, obviously, I talked about the White Sox. I'm not going to get much into that, more into that anyway. But another team that me personally I'm excited about, obviously, like, okay, anybody can say the Dodgers because, okay, they just won the World Series.
I have the Dodgers on here, but that's
I'm not really excited about them. I mean, it's
just
common sense. Like,
I'm excited to see what Mookie does this year, what Trevor Bauer does in his new role. With Josh
I'm excited to see, is Clayton Kershaw going to have another postseason where he can actually pitch, or is he going to go back to, just being complete crap?
He's going to go back. He's going to go back to the year whenever he played against the Cardinals and Matt Adams hit 2 bombs against him. That's what's going to happen.
But a team that I'm excited about that is kind of under the radar in my mind is first off the Padres, who aren't really under the radar. They should be fairly decent.
I've got some things to say about him. I've got some things to say about them, and I will address that in our actual MLB preseason beginning of the season, regular season podcast that we're gonna do.
Yeah,
but,
which we will be doing that in a couple weeks before
Yeah.
the season starts.
I got some things to say about them. You're
but
gonna want to hear that.
Another team, and I kind of want to hear your take on this, is the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Not making the playoffs. Not making the playoffs.
And the reason why I think they may not is
They
because of pitching.
Pitching,
which in
they
my
have
mind,
consistent offense. They've
which-
got Mike Trout.
in my mind, is a huge travesty for, especially a guy like Mike Trout, who, and we'll get into this maybe a little later, but arguably one of, if not the best player in baseball right now.
Yeah, definitely one of the best.
It's a travesty because he is a very good player on a team that just cannot make the playoffs.
And if they do,
And-
they're out first round.
Yeah, and it's
Too inconsistent. They rely on him to be the centerfold of everything.
Yeah.
And in the playoffs,
Yeah.
you can't do that. You
And
have to
it's-
rely on your pitching. You have to rely on
and
your
even
defense.
though they signed a guy like Anthony Rendon, it doesn't seem like he's
It's not
doing
enough.
He's not doing as much as, which I mean, obviously one player on a baseball team is not going to be
It's not
enough.
enough.
But it's a travesty to see a guy like Mike Trout, who right now in this generation of baseball is the best player probably playing in the league.
Yeah.
And it's hard to watch the postseason and not be able to see
Mike Trout. Yeah.
a Mike Trout.
Yeah.
And you know, I know they signed him to an extension. He's going to be there for, I think, the next 8-9 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's tough seeing a guy who's at the prime of his game not get a chance to showcase himself.
Yeah.
First off, even in the national spotlight, because the games are so late at night, nobody's really watching.
Yeah, on the West Coast.
Because of the West Coast. But second, not be able to even play in the postseason.
Yeah.
Me personally, I wish I would have been able to go to Busch Stadium last year when they were playing in Busch to go watch him play. But I mean, I watch him on TV, and it's amazing what he can do.
Yeah.
Especially with the swing that he has, where it's like doesn't look like he's really even putting any effort into it,
It goes a mile.
and it goes 440 feet. You know, it's unreal what he can do, especially out in the outfield. But it's a travesty that you cannot see him in the postseason.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I say the Angels because I really hope one of these years they can get it done and at least make the postseason, at least give them a chance to play.
And it being Pujols' last year, I'd like to see it happen.
Yeah,
but
and I mean,
I don't see it.
well, and who knows? I mean, Pujols said he wants to retire with Yachty, so I want to say
Get
that.
a trade to the Cardinals. We'll trade Matt Carpenter for him.
Well, I'm not necessarily saying like
No, we'll
on the
trade
same team,
We'll trade
but
Matt Carpenter for him.
I mean, hey, at some point I want to see Pujols sign a one-day contract to retire a Cardinal.
Oh, he will.
I mean,
He will.
he deserves that no matter what Cardinals fans say about him.
Oh, we love him. We still love him. We
I
might have been pissed at him whenever he first left, me
And-
included. But
And this can kind of go into our next topic where we got a question on Facebook from Jake, and he asked current GOAT, greatest of all time. I don't like using the term GOAT, but greatest of all time players playing today, and I took it as MLB because he said the MLB season is going to be starting soon.
we kind of amended that, and we're going to do current and recent after.
Yeah, and the reason why we amended that is in our mind, the only greatest of all time player playing right now in the major leagues at this time, and we kind of talked about this last night, and I'm sure Moose probably agrees with this, is Yadier Molina.
And if anybody tells me no, literally DM me your reasons, and I will tell you every single reason why they're wrong.
Yeah, and
every single reason. I've got a list.
Yeah, and the reason, especially with the recent post on Facebook that we saw, is the amount of stolen bases the Cardinals have had since he came into the league, compared to the next highest in the league, is almost 200.
I'll go into some stats and some awards for him real quick. So with Yadier Molina, 20 gold gloves. 20. That's also alongside of 4 platinum gloves, which is, and for those who don't know what a platinum glove is, it's better than a gold glove. It is the position player that has the highest fielding percentage in a league. No, not even position, not by position, but the best fielder in that league. Yadi's won 4. He's got 9 All-Star appearances. Won 2 World Series. He has, let's see here, since 2005 is the year that he took over the catching duties for the Cardinals after Matheny left. Since 2005, lowest number of passed balls, 200 below league average.
Yep.
Lowest stolen base percentage, against, obviously. And also lowest number of stolen base attempts against by over 400 attempts and 700 below league average. So not only is he having teams steal less against him, with the stolen base attempts being 400 lower and 700 lower than league average, his stolen base against percentage is lower. Obviously, if you're going to have less people attempting a stolen base, and if somebody reaches, you're going to have your percentage usually be higher because you're having less attempts, and if you miss one, your percentage is going to go up by a higher amount. But it's consistently low, and I don't know if any of you have seen the clip of him in spring training this year. He
baited somebody basically to try to steal on him.
And let's say they tried and they were not successful.
Yeah.
And he just kind of looked at him like, "What are you doing?" Like,
and his reaction.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah, his reaction after that, looking down at the base, was priceless. I mean, we will try to find that clip and maybe share it on Facebook, so that way you guys can kind of watch that. But it is absolutely hilarious. And hey, that was pretty nice, by the way. In my mind, the only knock that you could possibly have on Yadi is his hitting,
His offense,
which at the beginning of his career, very suspect. Towards the end of his career,
middle to now, I'd say
he's a 300 hitter.
His middle middle part of his career was a lot better. He's kind of died off here in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But I mean, he supplements that with his understanding of the game. He knows how to call a game.
And that's my thing is
he controls that pitching staff.
Yeah.
So well. He has rookies that come in and they make pitches and make plays in big game situations that makes you feel like they've been in the league for 10 years. And that's because of Yadi behind the plate, knowing what to say, knowing how to calm them down, knowing what to do to get them into those situations to be successful.
And personally, I mean, playing catcher for the majority of my life, how he has been able to play, first off, for that many years and not have knee problems and everything else is, first off, astounding. But second, the way that he can frame pitches, the way he can call game, and basically just be, the leader in that locker or clubhouse, not locker room. But there's a reason why, arguably, I don't want to compare different eras of baseball.
I'll do it. He's the best.
I mean,
I'll do it.
I will gladly say I'm not a Cardinals fan. I will put him as the best.
Send the comments to me. Send them. I know you're going to. Type it out. Send it to me. I will tell you every reason why you're wrong.
Yeah, the only reason why I don't want to put him as, different eras is, obviously, some people are going to say Yogi Berra. And obviously, I wasn't alive to watch him play.
You could tell me Yogi Berra, and I'll still tell you why Yadi's better. You can tell me Mike Piazza, Padre Rodriguez. I know somebody's going to tell me Johnny Bench, you know who you are, and I'm still going to tell you every reason why you're wrong.
Johnny Bench was good. Mike Piazza was good, but they were more offensively minded catchers. I think Yadi, for sure, is the greatest defensive catcher of all time. All time.
First ballot Hall of Famer.
I don't care
any of you that tell me no, you're crazy.
Definitely first ballot. In my mind, I hope he's
unanimous.
I hope he's unanimous. Do I think it's going to happen? No.
Before we move on to our next player, obviously, Moose is no longer to my left. He had something unexpected come up and unfortunately had to leave a tad early. But we definitely appreciate having him on, having him come on. Everything's all good with him. He just had something come up that he wasn't expecting, had to take off. So, yeah. So we're gonna finish it up with just the two of us and Chandler over there behind the camera.
Yep.
So the next player that we considered to be, well, this is going to go more into the recent, more of the recent players and or players that recently retired that we consider to be, one of the greatest of all time or greatest of this era. And that's Derek Jeter. Anybody that knows me and knows like the players that I've looked up to as a baseball player knows that Derek Jeter is probably one of, if not my favorite baseball player throughout the history of Major League Baseball. With Derek Jeter being a shortstop, I played whenever I played baseball, I was a middle infielder. I played both short and second base, and I just tried to kind of emulate how he played. Obviously, he was a defensive liability at times, but he was special in the plays that he made and things along those lines. Such a class act as well. Just a great overall guy. So I'll just go through a couple stats. His career batting average was .310. He had 3,465 hits, and he had a WAR or wins above replacement at 71.3. And for those that aren't aware of what the wins above replacement stat looks like or what would be considered good, the greatest shortstop or the best shortstop WAR is by Cal Ripken Jr. and his WAR is 92. So
Which is
it's insane.
Insane.
It's insane. So Derek Jeter's right there. He just to go over a couple of his awards and accolades as well. Rookie of the Year, 14-time All-Star, 5 Gold Gloves, 5 Silver Sluggers, 5 World Series wins, and he was the World Series MVP in 2000. So not only is he showing up and getting those All-Star appearances, winning World Series, winning the World Series MVP, and winning the Rookie of the Year, he's just an all-around player, getting 5 Gold Gloves and 5 Silver Sluggers. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that at least a couple of years he won a Gold Glove and a Silver Slugger in the same year.
Yeah. I'm gonna say
just not heard of.
I couldn't give you the exact year, but I'm almost positive he did.
He just
a
winner from the beginning to end.
Yeah, and in my mind, the fact that he was not a unanimous Hall of Famer is still just mind-boggling and honestly just disgraceful for the one guy who did not vote him.
And I'm thinking it's got to be a Red Sox fan that just is pissed that the Yankees beat them for all those years. He had to be resentful. There's no way.
If it wasn't whoever it was, I don't know if they ever actually came out and said who it was.
Take his vote off.
They need to be fired.
He can't vote. He or she can't vote any longer. I don't care who he is.
Yeah, regardless of your bias towards the Yankees, towards Derek Jeter. The
guy was a class act.
Yeah, I'm not even a Yankees fan, and by far the most class act player I've ever seen.
Fan friendly.
Yeah. Fan friendly. I went to a game in Kansas City, and he, after the game was over, personally just threw his batting glove, his glove.
Yeah.
I can't remember if he threw his bat or anything, or like a baseball that he had like to fans or anything, but like literally just threw it over the dugout, didn't really care.
Yeah.
He did make sure that like there was kids around, not just like any random person got this stuff. But
and he was that guy that was along the foul lines before games started, signing autographs after games. Anytime that you would see him out in public and you came up to say something to him, or get an autograph or a picture, I don't know if he ever said no. I'm sure there was, but circumstances where he was in a hurry but he class act, just a class act.
And speaking of like ways to go out while you're on top,
walk off
hit in his last at bat
in Yankee Stadium, the house that Jeter built.
Yeah, and not just that, but his 3,000th hit, home run. It's quite possibly one of the best careers of our lifetime watching.
Yeah.
It's Jeter was a class act. Definitely missed in the major leagues. And in our minds, I mean, I'm sure you agree with this, Braden. Definitely one of the greatest of all time players that we got a chance to actually watch in our lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, with his last at bat in the major leagues being a walk-off single to right field, opposite field, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, anybody that played baseball knows it was a high. I remember the play exactly. They're playing. I want to say the Orioles, but high fastball on the ground that he hits on the ground opposite field in between the second baseman and first baseman.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that's played baseball knows how difficult it is to hit a ball that is up in the strike zone or even above the strike zone on the ground, as well as hit it opposite field.
Yeah.
So I mean, great bat control, one of the most clutch players. I mean, you know, between that, I mean, he always had an knack for the dramatic, the 3,000th hit being a home run.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you've got Mr. November being one of his nicknames.
I mean,
you know,
after the play that people were like,
with the A's.
Did he necessarily need to actually cut the ball off? Who cares? Still one of the best.
He did.
Yeah, still one of the best plays in postseason. In my mind, postseason history.
Yeah. I mean, just his awareness.
Yeah,
his awareness is insane.
It was unreal.
And I mean, plus his other nickname being the captain.
Exactly. I mean,
yeah. And I mean, what's more iconic in Yankee baseball other than hearing the play-by-play announcer or the color guy for the stadium coming over the loudspeaker and announcing him coming up to bat.
Exactly.
Number 2. Derek Jeter, number 2. I mean,
exactly. And
there's the Jordan commercial that gives that with Jeter in it, and everybody's tipping their cap, kind of giving their salute. Anytime I watch that, it's just chills. I mean, he got everything that he deserved.
Yeah, and my whole thing is, you know, you can hate the Yankees for how many championships they have, but you have, like, in my mind, you have to respect Jeter.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't hate the guy. I mean, you can hate how good he was and how successful he was, but you can't hate the guy as an actual player and the person he was. And I mean, and that kind of leads into our next player we want to talk about.
Somebody that really grew up in the organization with Derek and with Andy Pettitte as well. Mariano Rivera. I mean, what can you really say about Mariano Rivera other than just the greatest closer of all time?
Yeah.
Also, the only player to be a unanimous decision in the Hall of Fame. I'm thinking, if not one of very few.
Yeah, and when we say unanimous, we mean like 100%.
100% votes.
There's been unanimous people, but it's like based on 90. I think that 90+ percentage.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Mariano Rivera, and we could be wrong about this, but we're pretty sure that he was the only 100% person.
For reference, Ken Griffey Jr. is one of the greatest outfielders, one of the most loved players. I mean,
greatest swing in baseball history.
They've talked about enough to where they've talked about changing the logo of Major League Baseball and it being his follow through of his swing. Like, enough. He wasn't 100%.
Yeah.
And Mariano Rivera was, and rightfully so.
Yeah,
rightfully so.
And in my mind, you know, especially with Rivera, by far, like you said, the best closer of all time.
Yeah.
The fact that he had, I want to say, only 3 pitches, and hitters knew.
He had one.
Well, one.
He had one, basically.
One for sure, but I mean.
He had a couple, but.
Realistically, I think he had 3 technical, but one that, I mean, hitters knew a pitch was coming and still couldn't hit it.
I can go through a couple stats here. So with Rivera, all-time saves leader, 602. All-time leader in games finished, 881. His career earned run average, 2.22. For a reliever, insane. Closer, even more insane.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Even crazier, whip or walk or hits in innings pitched is 1. So basically, any inning that he pitched, he would give up 1 hit or 1 walk per inning, and that's it. And for a closer, that's very good.
Yeah,
that's unheard of.
Yeah.
And then speaking of unheard of, me go into his postseason stats, or his playoff stats. 8-1 record, and this is with him winning the 5 World Series along with Derek Jeter. So plenty of playoff action. 8-1 record, a 0.71 earned run average, a 0.76 WHIP, or again walks or hits per inning pitched, 42 saves. So at least 42 games. This is all this has happened, and at least 42 games. And I know of at least 10 to 15 postseason games that he pitched in that weren't that weren't save situations. His home run per 9 innings in playoffs, 0.1,
which is incredible.
Yeah, I think.
I mean,
I remember I have his biography that I've read, and I'm thinking that in his entire playoff career he gave up 1 home run, and it was a walk off, but that ended up losing them. I want to say a World Series, or at least a World Series game, but and then walks per 9 innings, 1.4.
Yeah, I mean,
stats. I mean,
and again, I mean, you remember, just like Jeter, you remember where you were during his last game, his last at bat. You remember where you were.
Oh yeah.
For Rivera being taken out of that game by
Jeter and Pettit. You see, they're up. You got Jeter and Pettit, and they had, the Yankees had just gone out and were taking the field for that 9th inning. He had come in and pitched the 8th inning for his last game, so they could give him a kind of a walk off the field with all the fans appreciating.
Oh yeah.
And you knew as soon as he went out there, everybody knew he was going to be taken out.
Well, and not just that, but what an iconic smile! On his last time being out, just the smile, and I mean, you could say smirk, I guess, but just the iconic smile of seeing 2 guys that he kind of grew up with in the organization come out, get him. I mean, if that does not scream greatest of all time, I don't know what does.
And there's the mantra or saying of "there's no crying in baseball," but I mean, seeing Jeter and seeing Pettit walk out and them smiling and kind of walking out there, kind of giving him his moment. As soon as Jeter gets out there and starts talking to him, and Pettit starts talking to him, you can just see the emotion that Rivera really wore on his sleeve, and how much the game really meant to him. Because as soon as he realized that it was over, he basically kind of fell into Jeter's arms and just kind of hugged each other for a little while. You can tell he was emotional.
And very well deserved.
Deserved.
Arguably, you could say there's not going to be another closer.
Unhittable cutter. Yeah. Unhittable cutter at times.
You can argue there's not going to be another closer like Rivera.
Yeah, and we thought that whenever Trevor Hoffman was. We thought that when Trevor Hoffman was the all-time save leader, and then Rivera, we didn't think that he was going to be able to continue on the pace that he was, and he did.
But
for another 5 years after at least another 3 years after he took over the all-time save lead. But I mean, unhittable cutter. I mean, great guy. I mentioned that I read his biography. Something that a lot of people don't know. He doesn't know how he throws his cutter.
Yeah.
He has no idea. He literally was pitching in the Dominican Republic, and one year he was pitching and it was just a normal four-seam fastball, and was getting lit up. Was having issues, didn't know if he wanted to come back and play, and the next year he came to training camp or to their preseason, whatever you would call it in the Dominican Republic, and his throwing partner came up to him after warming up and said something about like, oh, what do you stop doing what you're doing, like why are you trying to make it harder for me to catch it? And he had no idea what he was talking about, and this cutter was moving a foot and a half, and a lot
of that I wonder is, they always say like natural curve to a throw, but it's crazy that he could throw that pitch and had no idea what he was doing.
Yeah.
When
and he tried he tried numerous times to figure out what he was doing. He tried
Yeah.
gripping the ball different. He tried gripping it because he wanted to throw a four-seam fastball. He originally didn't think that the cutter would work out. But so he tried to go back to throwing a four-seam fastball, changed his grip, gripped it more like a traditional four-seam. It still cut. And
and
the rest is history.
Exactly. I mean, the rest
history.
is history. The rest is, greatest of all time closer.
Yeah.
If not, I mean, in my mind, it's not reliever. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
there's not many.
I'm gonna say
people,
forget
but-
closer. I mean, reliever.
Yeah. I mean,
Just
he's up there.
unreal. But yeah, in our mind, I mean, we tried answering that question as best we could. But in our mind, playing today, really, it's just Yachty.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, we could argue maybe Mike Trout might be in that conversation later in his career,
Yeah,
but it's too early to tell on that one.
And as we said before, he hasn't been on a consistent team or hasn't been on a winning team to be able to play playoff baseball. I get to see what that pressure is like if he can handle that pressure, which I'm sure he could.
Well,
but
and another thing, I mean,
it's a different beast.
That's the other kind of knock on maybe even his career is regular season wise, he might have some fantastic numbers by the end he's done, but postseason
he's not had postseason numbers.
He doesn't have that chance,
Yeah.
and some of these guys who played numerous postseason games, like Jeter,
Rivera, Giambi, Jorge Posada, just naming off Yankee players.
I mean, it's kind of not necessarily a knock on Trout. I mean, he can't control his team, but it's like you want to see him be able to get those postseason numbers and especially see how he is against some of these teams that are going to be giving their best every single night in postseason.
Yeah, that's just
and especially see how clutch he is. I mean,
yeah.
So, but with that being said, I mean,
I think that we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I mean, obviously, it being the first episode, might be a little bit longer. We had a lot to talk about. We had a lot of big news with NFL and with baseball and March Madness obviously going on, so it might be a little longer than normal episodes, but we'd love to hear your comments, your advice, if there's anything that you'd like to see or hear or anything that you think that we could be doing better, let us know.
Yeah.
Put a comment in the comment section for us. Send us a DM on Facebook. I mean, any way you really want to get a hold of us.
And again, keep with the questions. If you guys have a topic that you guys want us to debate, talk about, let us know. I mean, we want this to be kind of interactive with you guys as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, we like sports. We're going to talk about whatever, and we have our own topics that we can kind of discuss. But if you guys have a question, I mean, we'll gladly try to answer it. I mean,
like this is something that we all discussed and we thought would be a blast. And honestly, doing this first episode, it's been all of that. It's been fun. It's been funny. We've argued a little bit with each other. We've had differing ideas, and we've had the same ideas in some circumstances. But we want to make this as fun for you guys as it is for us. So, definitely keep sending us in those questions. Stay engaged with us on social media. Like the video. Tell your friends. Subscribe, all that fun stuff, and make sure you tune in next week because we've got a lot more of unfinished business. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.